Hello and welcome back to Valoranting. I do want to cuss. I personally think that is fucking bullshit. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? This is the best produced podcast I've ever been in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Valoranting. This week we have an absolutely packed show. We are still dealing with the fallout, the consequences of First Strike, and the fallout and consequences of Velly getting stuck in a Starbucks lineup and having to be replaced by Vansilli, who was going to be interviewed, but we decided to bring him into the main show to show us what hat he's wearing today. And we also have Uber, a first time guest, long time watcher. Also a rival podcast host, and also strikingly handsome. I never realized just how piercing those baby blues were.
Wait, what podcast am I on? I don't know about anything about this.
Have you ever appeared on the entity known as Plat Chat?
Oh, once. Yeah, I was on there. I was on there once.
That's all he needs. That's all he needs.
Okay. And that's it. It's a shame that it's me instead of Velly. I mean, they kept telling him they don't have orange mocha frappuccino, and he wouldn't listen, and he's still there being detained by security guards. So
Is that the
good
gas
to be
station?
here.
I said skinny, you fuck.
I spent most of the last few months just being contractually prevented from being on any show about Valorant, so it's nice to be here and
Good.
and the breeze with you.
I'm glad to have you along, dude. We have a lot to cover today, and you know what? As always, we lead off the show with a little bit of a summary of what we're going to be doing. We have all sorts of guests lined up today. It's going to be fun. We have Mel, we've got the Bears, we have all sorts of fun stuff that I'm not going to tell you anything about because it's time to talk about DevComs. It's Tuesday, and that means it's not a patch day, but it's DevComs day. So the core services group also helps support multiple age ratings, government submissions required to help us launch on time. This is essentially just the core services update. Next year, we're looking to continue to improve stability and latency for players. It's always the things. We're trying our very best to make things better, and maybe we will. And honestly, Riot's been doing a great job with this. Have you guys been... Network latency lag, client stability is not as much of a topic right now, Mitch, is it?
I don't think it's actually that much of a concern, really. I think that there's already been a lot of work that's gone into this facet of the game. I mean, I'm also West Coast Master Race, so it's not really it's not really something that's been an issue for us. But I think that a lot of the work that went into the netcode outside of complaints about hit registration, which there were definitely early on, and obviously the experience of like the aim punch and the stickiness of the game, which is maybe outside of network infrastructure. I think it's been pretty sick. I mean, I really haven't had too many negative experiences even through the beta in terms of that. So, and I mean, if they're trying to improve, I honestly think that a lot of their body of work is probably going to be for people that do not live in areas that generally have sort of low latency or strong internet connections available. I think that's the big challenge is making
like me. If I want to play with you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I also think there might be the whole issue of me being like a whole couple rank brackets below you, but yeah, the connection, that's a problem.
Yeah, it can be difficult. But I think that there should be some concessions made. Like if a diamond wants to hang out with a platinum, maybe or a gold, or a silver, or whatever as after silver. I think that there should be a special moment or a special maybe like Christmas. You can have a special event where everyone can
bring your
together.
kid to ranked day. I like it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Daddy,
man.
what's a post plant? I mean, aside from all the core services, it's basically the end of the year for Riot. It's been everyone's headed on vacation here pretty damn shortly, and I imagine they probably deserve it. I mean, it's only been a
100%.
global pandemic launching a game as well as a brand new esport. I mean, really, how hard could that have been? So the Foundations team, we have a little bit of update from them as well. Alongside the other teams in the Foundations area, our top priority is keeping the Valorant competitive experience healthy and fair. This year, that has meant a lot of late nights sweating over Reddit posts and continually improving our netcode and hit registration. It's hard to believe that Project A hadn't even reached alpha by this time last year. What? Wasn't even alpha by this time last year. That's crazy.
It's been a whirlwind of a year, mate.
And that's crazy. While we're proud of the work we've done so far, we know there is still a lot of room for improvement. Here's the things we're going to be doing. Here we go. And so this is always a huge one that guys like us seem to forget, which is the onboarding and learning experience for new players. See, we were there on day one learning by clicking on everything, whereas new players sometimes don't have that luxury. So, it's important to have that stuff in basically every game.
Yeah, some games, like the new play, like for example, and this is not just to talk trash on the game, this is just how the game's designed. Like Counter-Strike Global Offensive doesn't have a new player experience. It's literally Normandy Beach. Like, get out there, son, and show what you're made of. Hand you a fucking rifle that's half loaded or doesn't work or whatever, and you're just, spraying around the screen. Like and I expected a similar experience from Valorant when I started playing it, especially because we started playing so early on in the piece. But it's not like there's a story mode or social. Like it's not that kind of game. It is a hardcore tack shooter. So how do you provide like a robust new player experience outside of like your standard sort of tutorial offering? Already the in-game features like the aim range and sort of the practice features are a huge upgrade over that. So looking forward to seeing more.
I think there should be a disclaimer, Vansilli.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, I think the training and using the abilities freely is nice to learn for a new player, but I think it's just the experience for a new player going into the game right now, where whenever they're going to play, there's a chance they might play a Smurf account, unrated, and they're just getting thrashed, and then they don't want to play the game anymore. So I think when you're trying to better the user experience for newcomers, I think they should look into that as well.
Yeah, it's that fundamentally a game that doesn't really have a price tag. Obviously, pretty easy to make multiple accounts, and obviously it's very hard to treat the issue of people smurfing.
Smurfing is an issue that I think never goes away, in my personal opinion. But I was a little upset as not a new player, but it's I felt pretty confident in the aim range, and then when I got into the game, it turns out they shoot back at you now. So
and they move.
And they move, not just in predictable strafe patterns either. So we do have the player dynamics, continued improvements to the esports broadcast experience, all the stuff you want to see. They're going to improve the game in 2021, and you know what? The player dynamics team, they're doing the exact same thing. Inters and AFKers. What game are we talking about? Reworking in-game penalties for disruptive behavior, helping you find lasting teammates. Ooh, that sounds exciting. Easier and more informative nonverbal communication, making your in-game reputation matter, and smoothing out some common tilt moments and enforcing community standards better. How do you smooth out common tilting moments in FPS games? Mitch, go.
I think you have to improve the user feedback. I think the common tilt moments are I think like when you think you should kill someone and you haven't, right? I think that's always a problem. I don't know how they're supposed to tell someone that if you move and shoot, you're not going to hit anything. The problem is though is that you've seen it demonstrated. I think Tens demonstrated this, or maybe it was Zoms. He was, walking or running around the map and still able to attain a recent bit of accuracy. So I think that's like some players are a little bit disillusioned by that, because you have to understand what you sometimes experience or see from an opponent in Valorant is not necessary what is the same thing that happens on their end. There's buffering between the two of you. So sometimes you get like someone's holding an angle way earlier than you or peaks earlier than you, but because of certain mechanics in the game, it looks like you were there first and you shot first. And the one for me that gets me, I turn the air into Swiss cheese, but I start shooting first, but they have fired more shots than me as far as like the kill report is concerned. Right. I'm like, how could they have done that? So I think that is obviously that did satisfaction when a player goes into a gunfight expecting to win, or if they've done the prep when they're aware of their opponent maybe, and they still lose out. I think that's maybe a common tilt moment. They're also playing with Sideshow. Yeah, smooth that out.
I think there's also the fact that when you're playing as a team, like when you're looking at pro games, it's normal to see like a 5-1, 6-1, 7-1 scoreline, and then teams are starting to come back because they're a little bit more structured and they know how to come back into a game. There's a couple of ranked games that I could play, or even unrated, where as soon as you lose the first pistol round and then you lose your eco round, they think the game is over and you already want to vote to surrender. So I think that's a common thing where people they don't seem to accept to be falling from behind. You always have to have this winning mentality playing in this game sometimes for some of these players. And I think that could definitely, they should definitely find ways to improve that mindset a little bit.
I just want someone from Riot on like a Discord call with me, just like making soothing sounds as I attempt to climb my way out of. Yeah, just like now that's enough. Yeah, no, you definitely missed that one. No, that's a miss.
The systems projected you only had a 30% chance of winning that gunfight anyway. So maybe approach it from high ground next time, or use cover more effectively.
Here's a couple of tips. Maybe maybe get a keyboard. So as we move on from that, we also have the tried and true. It's the festive season, and that means one thing: more skins. So the night market is live. What did you get? What did you get, Vansilli?
I had the Lux knife, I had the Oni shotgun, and then a bunch of like blue skins. But I didn't want to spend on any of those because I spent all my money into the Christmas skins, anyways. But night market's cool. I like the concept of it. It's just kind of sucks that it's only every act or every 30 days that it refreshes. So you're stuck with them as soon as you open them.
Oh, really? So you have RNG in the what kind of skins you're going to get for the guaranteed money you're giving Riot?
Yeah. Pretty much.
We've given you the option. Here it is. You can pay for any one of these. And they're like, okay, that sounds awesome. I hope I got a good one.
I mean, mine was filled with convex skins, I think. So, maybe once I attain like the blues and greens that sort of came with the game, like a lot of those ones, maybe I'll get something else in mind. But yeah,
we're talking about blues and greens in here already. Okay.
Yeah.
Careful there. Let's stay on track here. I'm desperately hanging on as it is. So there's been an absolutely enormous amount of skins in the first year of Valorant, and there has been some like. From the where exactly are we holding this dragon question all the way to how do you fit a whole universe inside of a frenzy? What was your favorite skin, Vansilli?
I have 3. So
let's see them, by the way. Let's get some references here. Roll it.
I have the Arizona Iced Tea Oni. There is something nice about it, something that's crispy when you get a kill, and when they die and the mask pops up, I like to do the Roka thing and wear the mask when they die. I also like the Elder Flame Black Vandal. It's just a European thing that just ingrained in my mind that you're just able to one-tap so much easier without weapon.
Did we crash it with the Korean skins?
I tell you, these are not my favorite skins for the glitch pops.
VMix cannot. They're called glitch pop, by the way, and they're literally exploding our VMix. It's all right. We'll see the rest of them later.
Oh, man. And then last but not least, Sheriff. Oh, my God. The singularity. The one that looks like a blue and yellow lava. That shoots and it just goes. The sound is just beautiful when you shoot that gun.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't buy the dragon. Mitch, what about you? How did you shake out on the dragon?
Yeah, I actually did get the Daggeron skin because I loved the idea of literally giving it a cartridge enema every time I tried to reload.
Where do you want me to put this there, big fella?
Yeah, that's right. Like I felt like I was I basically like my accuracy was based on how effectively I was giving the prostate exam to the dragon.
As soon as that skin came out, dude, like
I actually think the knife from that set is awesome. I just like that nice. It's not blocky. It's really quite sleek. But I think the Sovereign set is my favorite. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't actually get to see like Phantom and Vandal versions of those skins. I love that sort of like angelic paladin sort of warrior of the light sort of look. I want to smite people in Valorant when I turn around and just own them with the spirit of justice.
The perpetual paladin.
That's right.
I like it. I mean, I was a huge fan of. I mean, this to me is visually confusing. So also,
it's so nice,
are there people in there? And are they consenting to be inside of a gun? Yeah, there are people in there.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, we're trapped in here forever.
My KD ratio has actually gone down playing with these skins because I always like going to Shane and I just stare at the houses and I miss my placement angles for the shots.
I just want
it's so nice.
I want them to put like shadow puppets every once in a while, just random new elements. Like, is that a demon sitting on top of the house in there?
It's a technique actually that we've seen used, I think, with the Galaxy looking skins as well, where like the reference image inside the skins stays tethered to that location, but when the gun moves, it's a different part of it. So I think it's a gorgeous effect, but it's extremely distracting, especially someone who, tends to have a short attention span. How the hell am I supposed to friggin' hold an angle when I'm too busy trying to sort of have a look at what the fuck's going on in Alpha Centauri. Like, there's just
looks like a
there's
star's
so much going
exploding.
on.
Oh shit, I'm losing B.
Oh yeah, look at that. There's a quasar there. I bet you they captured that by radio image. Oh yeah, right. So,
You know what?
they're beautiful, but it's a lot, you know.
I do have to add to the fact that these skins actually made players a lot nicer in games too, because somehow when they're like, "Oh my god, you got the Christmas skin," and then they're like, "Hey, can you buy it for me? Can you drop it for me?" And you drop it for them in game,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Yo, this guy is fucking cool."
It's how you
and then
identify
you just start
the
having
adults.
like this great chemistry. You start winning. It's fucking great. I love it.
That's how you identify all the adults. Like all the kids are like, "Holy shit, you bought that $129 skin!" Like, not just this one.
Want to come by and see all the skins I got? Look at this, baby.
Jump in the back of my van. I'll go bring it over to my house. But there is one skin that didn't end up staying in the game that ultimately, in my opinion, was the best skin of all of them, and that was the mini axe. If you guys remember this was a long. Our ticker even covers it up to an extent. But this was a bug of some kind where the axe would just become very tiny. This was
nice.
this was one of the and the animations all worked and everything, and this just gave me so much sustenance. This was back, Jesus, like a week after beta or something like that, maybe even in beta.
Like a long time.
I can't remember, but yeah, it was just one of those little things where look at that little guy. I
think
want it.
Prism was like the first set of skins that came on release, right? So
Yeah.
probably in like June time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice, especially with the hands that you have from Breach. Kind of feels like you're literally a gnome running around the map.
Yeah, it's when you really want to pillage your enemy's morale and coffers, but just a little bit, you know, just slightly.
Can you imagine like that? Just the disrespect. Like if there was like an even smaller icon in the top right, like that was like reflective of the mini axe. Like, yeah, you were killed with a sandwich, one of those things that keeps sandwiches from falling apart. Like that's
You have a thing to keep from sandwiches from falling apart?
You know, like a sword. Like, you know, ever go to like one of those shitty diners that where they put
it's
like
a
a plastic
sandwich.
sword?
You know, them sandwiches that aren't supposed to be that big, and you
Yeah.
definitely can't fit your
I
mouth
hear it.
around.
Yeah. They have to squish
Yeah.
the shit out of it and then put the sword in there, or like the little weird bamboo thing with the knot on the end.
Or just a regular toothpick.
It's like, don't you know people run faster with toothpicks in their hands? Bro?
Oh man, there's a million dick jokes I'm gonna have to glaze over there. All right, well, you know what, it's and I'm not sure if you guys are sensing the theme here, but this is like a year in review. It has been like basically
It's
this is it's the end of the year for Valorant, and I mean we were just discussing the thought that this game was in apparently alpha a year ago, which is insanity.
Insane.
Yeah, considering that it released like 3 months after that. So we also had a chance again to sit down with Mel from C9 and have a quick chat about some random things. You know what? I want to hear the words from Mel herself. She had an opportunity to sit down with us previous. So let's play it.
All right. Hello, I am Mel. I am the IGL for C9 White. Okay, at the start of this year, I literally just came back from Indonesia, and I was working as an esports producer and observer for a tournament organizer called Winners League in CS:GO. I was pretty much like full-time an observer and producer in CS:GO, just making sure these tournaments had really good streams and really good production value. I could not have imagined any of this happening, like not even close. Like I don't, there's like no universe where I would know what Project A is, where I would know I'd be signed to Cloud9, where I'd be competing, and where I've had these as my goals. Like the only thing that might have been consistent is that I know I wanted to play games at like a very high level. That's it. There was nothing related to any of this I could ever imagine. When I first heard about Valorant, when it was Project A, I was so excited. I'm not gonna lie, I had high expectations, and I think the launch for me, like it went really, really well. Like I was so excited to play this like brand new game. It was like really familiar with like the gunplay and the CS mechanics. So I was a very happy consumer. I was a happy customer. I was really enjoying the game when it came out. Honestly, like the moment it came out and I played it, I was like, dude, this is the perfect opportunity and like the perfect chance for me to compete and try to get in at a high level. Because like compared to CS, where it's like, okay, I have like what 3K hours on CS, girl, it's it's a long shot to compete at the tier 1 level within like the next 2 years. And I had like a job at the time. It just didn't make it would never have made sense. But in a game like Valorant, brand new, like I knew I could compete at least at a decently high level in this new game. Favorite memory is definitely winning the Riot Ignition series. That was an insane moment. Like just sitting there, like defusing the bomb. I was just sitting there like, holy crap! Like I just won this tournament. Like that is, so I wish I recorded it. I wish I shadow played it. That is something I regret, but that is absolutely my favorite memory. It's just all my work, all the hard work I've put in, beating people that I used to like look up to in CS, and just everything coming together with this team. It literally changed the course of my life. So that's definitely my favorite memory. My worst memory would probably be, I mean, to be completely honest, like getting first rounded in the UMG qualifiers for Strike. The first time that happened, second time didn't hurt as bad, but the first time where I underperformed pretty badly, that was pretty bad. This past year of Valorant, I've learned to, just me personally, I've learned to be a lot more humble and practice more humility. And that the trend, like when it's like a scene starts to like develop a tier 1 scene, it honestly happened way more quickly than I thought it would. I mean, I still think that a lot of tier 2 teams could upset tier 1 teams at the moment, but I think First Strike kind of proved me wrong in the fact that there weren't as many like upsets as I thought there was. Like what was like Renegades, and that was really it out of the top 8. Like you pretty much expected everyone in that top 8 to qualify, maybe except for Cloud9. But I think overall, like the scene is still new, and like the tier 1 scene isn't as like developed. And going into 2021, I hope I can see myself among those tier 1 players by the end of the year. Honestly, when Valorant released their esport plan, I just got that much more confident in everything that they were planning because they're being completely transparent with us. I didn't really like compete in CS, but as like a producer and like an avid observer and an avid fan of like tier 1 CS, it's honestly like it's a blessing to hear that, because sometimes like all they would really announce is like the major, right? They would announce the major and the minors, and I feel like this is like kind of similar to that, but also in the sense where they're working with these like other organizers and really setting up like a feeder system. And I think like the way they structured it is super cool. For the game, I mean, I know we've had some like awkward, like I don't know about this I don't know about this change with the balance team, but I come from CS and I've been playing CS since like 2015. And there were times where like the devs would just not, they would just not communicate with the community. Like I think it's gotten better nowadays, the past like 2 years, maybe even 3. But if you go on Reddit and you just look at like the posts of like new updates, so many people are just talking about the fact that they just never ever spoke with the community and they just completely ignored them. And unless it was like for the major. Like there are so many instances where that happens, but I won't go too much into it. But it's such a blessing, dude, to have these devs that are just so transparent and just at least talk to us, and they're like constantly trying to communicate with us. Like on Icebox, I know they spoke to a lot of pros about what they would want to see different about the map. And like for the balance changes, like they're listening to the feedback. With the gunplay changes, they're listening to all the feedback on Twitter. It's just something I'm not used to, so I'm just really grateful for it. I think this game does need like a player break of some sort, because players are going to get burned out fast in this game compared to CS, because you're constantly trying to stay at the higher level and you're constantly trying to innovate when like certain metas already developed in CS that you can kind of just play off of. There isn't really like a ton of innovation needed. But in Valorant, like there's different agents, a new map, like it's completely new and completely different. We're still finding out things of agents we've had for 6 months, and we're just finding out new things about them. So I think it's a bit, I wouldn't say irresponsible, but I do think it's really important they do have like a set out player break, because these players are going to burn themselves out whether they know it or not. The like innovation and like meta shifts are just so much more drastic in Valorant that it's like not even comparable to what can occur in CS, in my opinion. I think like the only like huge meta shifts in CS were like Astralis like just really using utility completely differently and getting like the highest value, and then everyone started to like take that upon themselves to like develop that into their own teams. But in Valorant, you literally have dozens of different combinations of agents, dozens of different setups with different agents with different comps, countering other people's play styles. It's like rock, paper, scissors, and thinking about all of that, innovating at the same time. It's a lot of like brain power. I know some teams have like coaches and like the IGL primarily work with it, but like the best teams have everyone thinking about it and developing these strats and innovating and thinking about like mastering their agent, which is something you don't need to think about in CS because you don't need to. I'm gonna master my nades. Like everyone's doing that already, but as opposed to like, oh, I need to master Jet, I need to master Omen, I need to master Sentinel. It just goes so deep. So this is something they need to be aware of. Yeah, this past year, Valorant has definitely been really successful for me personally. Um, as a player, I feel like I'm reaching new heights that I've never had in any other game before. I feel like I'm really improving every single day. I'm getting better. I'm slowly getting towards my goal of being a tier 1 player. Like every day in practice, every day of VOD review, I stream, I play ranked. I'm just it feels good progressing towards a set goal and just seeing yourself improve. And the fact that um I'm able to be supported by like Cloud9 and get picked up by such a prestigious organization to support me in doing that. I've there's no way I can consider that a failure. It's just success in every way. For my team, we won the Ignition Series. I'm so proud of my team for keeping composure and playing in such a high pressure situation where none of us have played for that much money or for such a prestigious award before. I think I want to end the year with a bang and do really well in this next tournament that we're gonna be playing. We're playing 2 tournaments this month. And I just want to make sure it ends on like a bang and that we come out from this year like really happy and with no regrets with anything that we did. I think for Riot, girl, they are so happy. I know they are so happy with everything that's happened this year regarding Valorant. Like the game honestly blew up. I don't think they expected this many people this early to be so excited for the game and playing it every day. Like the content around it, like the narrative building, like the players are just it's just amazing what everyone has done and I'm sure Riot is super proud of that and um they made an awesome game with so much depth and honestly really good balancing at the end of the day and they really listened. So if they aren't proud, they should be. And this has been an awesome year as a player, and I'm so glad that they exist to make this game. Shout out to my boyfriend Stronglegs. I don't think I would be here without him. He's helped me so much this entire year. Just coaching my team. Oh my god, why am I getting emotional? he's just been awesome. He's helped me and my team through everything. Shout out to my team. Meeting them and making this team has been like amazing. It has really defined this year for me, and it's taught me a lot of things as a person and a player. Again, like Roy has helped us so much in like coaching the team. Like a week before the Ignition series, he coached us so much, and he gave us like solutions, and like he gave us a lot of insight that we would not have thought to even think of because we were just inexperienced at the time, and he helped us so much with that. I want to also shout out my mom because she's like the most supportive mom I think you can be for someone that plays esports. She's always calling me. She's asking me how practice is going. She calls me right after tournaments and she's like, "Yo, like, what happened? Like, let me know. And she just gives me a lot of like reassurance and comforting thoughts. So thank you, mom. I love you. Shout out to my family. They've also been really, really supportive. And my dad will literally text me like, "Yo, I saw your ranked game. GG's, you're nuts." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" They're like watching my stream. It's just really cute. So shout out to Roy, shout out to my team, shout out to my family.
Well, normally I would come in with like some quip, like, "Oh yeah, isn't that whatever?" But that was just a heartfelt, emotional roller coaster. It was very wholesome. So shout out to Roy, shout out to Dad, shout out to everybody out there for supporting Mel, and the rest of C9 White, man, who have had a crazy year in themselves. I mean, really, everyone attached to Valorant. Who went all in has had crazy years, from talent to the players to the coaching staff, everybody, even the organization have had
too.
massive content creators, everybody.
Can confirm, Moses. It's been a crazy ride, man. I'm just glad. Having this.
You know what? From doing those events right at the beginning to doing none of the events later, wow! Let me tell you, it has been a crazy ride.
It's been worth the risk, you know what I mean? But big shout out to Cloud9 White. I mean, I really enjoyed watching the FTW Summer Showdown, which is what Mel's referencing.
Yeah,
talking about that Ignition series. Obviously they struggled a little bit, when it came to the qualifiers of First Strike. Well, obviously Riot has some as we've now realized, some new regulations regarding multiple teams under the same umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still trying to feel out how that will impact a team like Cloud9 White. Obviously, there have been some teams already dropped to try and abide by this particular rule. So I'm
literally
to see where
right
we land on this
now. We just received hot breaking news from
breaking.
So new, so fresh. Goodbye Cloud9 Korea, and also T1 Korea. They have decided to fold it up because likely Riot is saying you can only have one team operating to avoid conflicts of interest. Will be interesting to see. This is from Jake. Will be interesting to see if C9 can hold on to their all-female roster, C9 White. So we've just received word after that emotional, heartfelt interview that there is potential that it's all going to go to shit. I mean, I hope not. So I really hope not. And I imagine that Riot is now doing the ballerina tippy toe thing that they do all around that topic of C9 White, because that's a big question mark there, Mitch.
So I could be completely mistaken by this, but was I talking to Sideshow or someone who mentioned that maybe there was, providing that this secondary teams had maybe, I think, a minimum of like one female player on it, they may not have to drop it. It might actually provide them an exception. So a great way to sort of encourage teams to actually invest in female competitors. That honestly, I could have just whipped that one right out my rear end, but at least.
Go ahead, Van.
Sorry, guys. I was gonna say, if you want to take the example maybe of like CS:GO, if whenever they have like female tournaments, you have Team Dignitas, you have female teams from organizations that also have male teams that compete. So maybe there's some exception to the rule with that too, looking into the future of what it's gonna look like for Cloud9 White.
Two halves.
I believe there is some substance to that. So I mean, it turns out I did remember correctly. So there will be some more lenience to sort of teams containing female players, which is great news.
Because I mean, on one hand, you have the obvious need to promote and support women in esports, especially ones who have like full competitive and not just competitive for women, but like competitive in general teams out there right now. And also the other half of it is that there is no fucking way in the year of our Lord 2020 that Riot is going to forcefully remove an all women's CS or Valorant roster. It's just not going to happen. So I hope that, and I believe that C9 White is in just fine position. However, if you're C9 Korea or T1 Korea, not the case.
That's dunzo.
And really, when you live in the same realm as Vision Strikers, I think that's also a pretty big factor as well. What do you think, Van?
Yeah, Vision Strikers are looking good as a team right now. I don't know what it's going to look like when Vision Strikers are going to play like a North American team or a European team, but they're looking very, very good in terms of their scene in Korea and Asia, and even First Strike. I mean, they still haven't lost a map or a tournament yet. So
yeah, it's like a 60+ win streak or whatever.
Like a nip of Valorant.
Cloud9 Korea actually gave me one of the more interesting games. I actually sat up in my seat a little bit watching them play Icebox against Vision Strikers during First Strike. So, I mean, there are a plethora of esports orgs in Korea. The question is here's what is kind of ironic for me in a way, maybe a bit poignant, is that T1 is a brand that grew in Korea. Right? the legacy of that team harkens back from League of Legends. Now, presumably they maintain the team brand over here in North America, but the roots of T1 are absolutely in South Korea. So it's a little bit of a shame to see them have to disband that team.
Well, when you're making the money spending the money, I don't really know exactly what T1's finances are looking like right now. I'm sure they're fine and all that, but I mean, the roster they have right now, it probably accounts for, the equivalent of a nice house in some areas of the United States every month. You know, they're gonna keep the Cadillac team that has obviously all the hype behind it and the name recognition. And shout out to T1 Korean Valorant. I cannot name a single person on that team. I have no idea who they are. So I mean that's obviously on me. But I spent a lot of time following T1, and it was needed. There's no way that Skadoodle and company are getting dropped for a team that loses Division Strikers every tournament. So
yeah, and I think just the branding that T1 has in Korea is more around their League of Legends team, anyways. So I think they're able to get that marketing dollar or the exposure that they want with that scene, with that team, while they could focus on something fairly new, a lot more. There's more eyes focused on NA Valorant right now as well versus Korean Valorant. So I think it makes sense to make that decision from T1's perspective.
Well, now we know the value of going out in the first round of every tournament. It's the entire T1 Korean roster. So it's all right. I don't like I said, I'm setting myself on fire out here, Chat. Cloud9 is also making some moves. It all will become clear. Cloud9 is also making some roster moves. Shinobi, I don't want to say the much maligned, but he was always, for some reason, anytime you reference the rabble, i.e. Reddit or Twitch chat, was the first one getting called out. And unfortunately, that has come to a head, and he will be leaving the team. Cloud9 needs change, and ultimately, this was expected. If it wasn't going to be Shinobi, it could have been anyone who isn't TenZ. This could have easily have been them. That's kind of the weird angle with Cloud9. So we did have a little bit of a follow-up when it comes to what the changes are going to look like internally. I want to see this video first before we talk about the whole rumor mill. So let's see this reaction about Leaf playing for C9 Blue. Fair enough. I thought it was a video. All right, well, we'll talk about this anyway, because what happened was Shinobi, and obviously, again, this is Reddit. There's some rumors flying around about what's happening with the roster and like who made what decision. Can we pull? And I know that I'm jerking around you, Dan. Can we see that tweet just really quickly again, please? So this is to clarify the rumor spreading about me disrespecting Shinobi FPS and wanting him cut. The strats we had could be executed with either Reyna or Jet. I said initially I wasn't feeling it with Jet and said I'm going to go Reyna instead. That was taken out of context. I respect Josh so much as both a teammate and as a friend. I had played on a CSGO team with him for the longest time. He would always be extremely selfless supporting me every way he could, even dropping me rifles ops in return for SMGs. I took no part in the roster change. You know what? If there's one shred of evidence that I would love to point to when I didn't get you fired, is that I used to drop you ops and rifles in CS.
Okay, so I mean, people have speculated that the entire reason, like Shinobi, obviously, I think he earned his spot. I think a lot of people have also sort of said that they definitely feel like the guy has talent, whether it's going to be in game or maybe in a coaching capacity, which may explain FaZe looking slightly less psycho recently, as he's been involved a little bit in their coaching. At least that's what the rumor is. Nothing's announced, but he's heavily hinted at it. You have to understand how Cloud9 operates and who their coach is. James has been coaching professional esports teams for quite some time now. Yep. I interviewed him like over a year ago. And I don't know why people are blaming Tyson for this decision, because I guaranteed if someone like James is involved in coaching this team, that guy called the shots. That guy made the decisions. All right. I mean, that team might be bringing in that bacon. They might be, slanging AWPs across the battlefield. But, James is a pretty strong figure when it comes to, his coaching style. And a lot of people said that, half the reason Shinobi's on this team in the first place is because he was mates with TenZ or what have you. But you cannot deny that their performance in the quarterfinals, the first strike, was just extremely unbecoming of a team with global ambitions. It was really disappointed that I think it was against T1. Where they fell apart. Like, that's not where they want to be. So, yeah, I mean, tons of teams are making changes right now. This is the part of the year where you do clean house, when there aren't any really sort of, big tournaments left, and, people are starting to let their hair down. And I don't know. I mean, the clip in question may have painted TenZ as more of an antagonist there, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, he.
If you watch TenZ at all, how do you get antagonist from him ever? Like, the dude is just like,
Innocent and nice and sweet.
I just click
He's
the
like
heads.
the nicest guy.
Just click the heads, and then sometimes they all die.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it is, though. Looking at tens and friends, people always coin them as tens and friends. So then, if something doesn't go well, it's not Tens' fault. It's never Tens' fault. And when you're talking about teams, hey, let's try to build them around a star player. Well, they think that it's going to be somebody like Tens that's going to have all the decisions around all the moving pieces that's going to make the team look good. And I think people don't really understand what really goes on in the back end. And a Shinobi has a great mind for the game, and he's a great in-game leader, and he knows how to run strategies. Maybe the fragment department wasn't there, so they need to find that change. They brought in Vice, but even then, we'll talk about it later. But the results aren't that great because they're still trying to figure things out. It's not necessarily Ten's fault at this point. It shouldn't be Ten's fault actually at all.
Just let the guy frag. Why does he have to worry about how his team's structured? Literally, just
let him frag.
Wheel him in to the room like Hannibal and point him at the enemy. That is how you use a player like this. Stop making him think. Stop making him do administrative stuff. No.
Never make that sound again, Alex. I swear to God.
What? It was great, right?
I think I said this last, and you know what? I'm contractually obligated to drop a basketball reference into every single show we do. But Tens is like the Carmelo Anthony on the New York Knicks. Like, he's just like, I'm getting my 35 shots a game. We might win, we might not, but I'm getting my 35. So whoever else is on the team, I'm maybe not gonna. And this obviously, he's a top level player. One of the top 3 in the world, I would say, probably of all the players. So really, he's the constant, and I think that's a little weird when you're looking to build a team, because the notion is that anyone who's coming into a team like this is going to be supporting or at least designed to work in part with Tens. And I wonder, when C9 was constructing this roster, if this was kind of the notion then, and that led them to just, when Tens was off or was shut down or whatever was happening, that they just didn't have much left in the strategy. So I'm not sure, Mitch or Van, do you have any insight into where this team is going now that they've brought on Vice as an IGL, which was just confirmed the other day?
Well, I think what's more important actually is obviously Vice moves to IGL, but Leaf joins this team. I think that, you are in a landscape where there are top Jet, Reina players on every other top team, right? You're going up against the Shazams and the Wardells of the world, right? It's not enough just to have your Jet player or your main op user be really good. Obviously, there've been some questions about Relics, who's has a little bit of struggle as well. Mitch has looked always pretty consistent on the Killjoy. Excuse me. But this team brings Leaf in here, and so far Leaf's been playing a lot of roles. Kind of reminds me of Sick in regards to sort of some of the different picks that we've seen them with. But Vice, by all accounts, looks like he may move to the Omen role, and then we'll see Leaf play a bit of Cypher. We saw him playing Breach, I think, in the JBL Cup. And and I think, Split's a little bit tough because obviously it necessitates some particular compositions, and, we didn't get a sort of like a Ascent or Haven kind of game to really assess what C9 are going to do with them. But Leaf don't forget, Leaf is the person that enraged a nation because of just how good they were in Counter-Strike. I was like, 17? The amount of death threats from Brazilian fans who were convinced this kid was cheating is unbelievable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This guy had an entire civilization rise up against him. So, I think, having that young head that brings a lot of talent into the roster is pretty important. A lot of teams have that dynamic. They have that they have the veteran heads, but they're backed up by, those guys that jump in. I love the tweet
is what you're looking for.
I love the tweet from Arsena, who's like, I go aggressive. I don't think I protect my boomers and let them get defusers and round wins, right? So that dynamic has been one that has worked really well. I think Leaf comes in and really offers a lot of real talent and some hunger as a young player. And I think there are enough, Relics, obviously, we often see, him in the duelist position, but Relics is extremely experienced, coming with a long history in Counter-Strike. This guy maybe falls a little bit on the, in the middle of the spectrum between sort of wizened boomer and sort of eclectic zoomer. So I think it's a good move, but they didn't look good at all. But why I don't can we temper our expectations? Does it even matter? It's like, the JBL Quantum Cup is a great chance for them to try this permutation. I think I don't know if they've signed Leaf officially, but
Well, it was a pretty serious tournament. So
we didn't get a chance to see the calling impact of Vice either. A little bit hard to discern that in the best of 1 week gold stream.
Well, when the only match you're able to see on stream is the match that's played on Split, where, like you said, Mitch, you're having a new player coming into the roster and he has to play Breach, and Breach needs a lot of communication to actually be able to get things going as an agent for your team. And when you're having a new in-game leader into the scene, you're getting a new player that switched from CSGO into this. Like, you're looking at some players that took a while before they actually became good at Valorant. I mean, Android when he first started, and Ye when they first started together with Nbox, they were good mechanically, but they weren't really that good as a team. And then it took them a couple of months until you started seeing that Nbox can now be one of the top teams in North America. I think right now, with the JBL tournament that just happened over the weekend, it gives a chance for them to just test out the chemistry, work that out, work out the kinks, and then iron out the strategies later on with their agent composition. Because I think you even saw some Mitch with Sage in that tournament as well. So I think they were fucking around with that at the same time.
If there's anything that scares me about the notion of having a team with boomers and like cracked out teenagers, is that like someday, not long from now, we're all going to be like, I used to play video games back in the day, and there's going to be some teenager who's like playing with us in the old folks home on his community program. It's gonna be like, oh, did you, Gramps? That's cool, man, cool. And I'm be like, yeah, look, I've got 13 whole frags, and he's like, okay, I've got 49. So that's what I imagined, like the boomer zoomer, from like old head CS to like just like honestly, it's such a weird phenomenon in at least in Valorant and obviously the greater gaming landscape, where you have now people who are graduating into like the elder statesman role, where like 5 years ago this was just everybody. There was no like separation between like older players and newer. Well, maybe a little bit, but I mean like I can't imagine like some kid coming up to Olafmeister and being like, yeah, no, I heard you used to be pretty good at Counter-Strike. Be like, I was like I was in the top 5 4 years ago. Like, it's not that long. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, from what I can tell, the definition of like what constitutes old has definitely
it's
come
shifting
down
rapidly
a little bit now. I know. I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. But also, people forget that actually the generation of millennials and Zoomers are actually closer together in terms of inclination and mindset and value system than any other set of generations of the past, because of social media and how information transfers via the internet. So, or actually like much more similar, despite maybe there being a brief a sort of age difference. Yet we get more shit about the age difference than any other group of sort of.
So now that we've graduated fully into old guys talking about young people, the podcast, I was sitting in Mendo's Discord last night listening to them talk about, they were doing mythics in WoW or whatever, and just listening to them interact with each other made me feel about 1,000 years old. Just because I don't know what it is, but like that small age gap, Mitch, makes me feel like I need to be like sitting shirtless next to my 1987 Camaro, whistling at girls at a 7-Eleven. Like that's,
we have time for
that's old.
Do we have time for a story about Mendo?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really illustrates this point really accurately. So when I first moved to the United States, I was in like corporate apartment because I didn't have a place to live yet. I was about to work on the Overwatch League. Mendo was also in Los Angeles in the same apartment complex because I think Liquid or the Outlaws had put him up there. But for some reason, he had like terrible internet in his apartment. And I had really good internet in my sort of corporate apartment that was already furnished, right? Because it's different. Blizzard organized mine, Outlaws organized theirs. So one day, Mendo comes down, knocks on my door, and he goes, "Hey," I'm like, "Yeah, hey, we kind of know each other. Like, obviously, I've cast you a bunch of times. Like, which you'll?" He's like, "Obviously, you're a lot younger than me. Like, hi." He's like, "Yeah, I need to. Can I use your apartment?" I said, "Well, for what? You have a perfectly good one up there." He's like, "Well, I have to scrim with the Outlaws, and my internet doesn't work." I'm like, so you want to use my internet? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, run a fucking cable up. He's like, no. Can I bring my computer over? I'm like, okay, mate, no worries. So he turns up. He's playing his PC. I'm like, listen, guy, I got a date tonight. I had a Tinder date or whatever. I just moved to LA. I'm meeting people, right? I come back after this date alone. To be fair, all right, I'm a gentleman, and my living room is full of Zoomers. There's like 7 of them, and they're all crowded around Mendo. and they're just like little fucking lemmings, like watching the guy play. And I'm like, excuse me, my apartment's been taken over by all these Zoomers. So I imagine it's a pretty similar experience to what you had. Like all these, Benner's like, yeah, that's my girlfriend, that's my other friend, that's him. You know what I mean? He designed my shoes once. You know, like,
this guy did my Twitter banner.
Yeah, and I felt incredibly old because I walked back into what was my apartment, but I felt like I was an intruder on some sort of Zoom convention.
Hey guys, what's cool and happening in my own apartment now? We're doing the gaming. I see. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, you're winning, son. Yeah. So yeah, I know that feeling, and I'm quite sure that Mendo and his cohort generate that kind of vibe. So
yeah, it's it's exciting to see how like I'm just assuming, like I used to think about when Fortnite was and still is quite large, but like when Fortnite was really blowing up, it was like these 12-year-olds, and the joke was these 12-year-olds are kicking our asses, but the reality is the 12-year-olds are kicking our asses, everybody, and it's going to be scary in the next 4 or 5 years here when we have like 13-year-old and 14-year-old prospects for esports that are just like, still using the old Dell Optiplex mouse that this dad passed off to him. And he's just, like I've seen kids going pro and mobile with iPads and shit. They're dedicated. So the work ethic is just, I'm going to have to hang it up here. I'm going to have to go out where I came in, gold. So the the roster moves do continue. Now this one, kind of pisses me off, and by kind of I mean immensely. So G2, otherwise known as the most dominant team in all of Europe, who won basically all of their first strike, I think all first strike or ignition events, and unfortunately did not win in first strike. The only tournament they didn't win, have decided to blow their team up. For some reason. Now this is coming from a non-verified dude. I don't want to undermine his information, because there's, I believe now confirmed information that David P and Pith are going to be leaving the active roster in some way. David P is out of the team entirely, and Pith is benched to go somewhere else. I don't even know. And also, I hate to make him a footnote, but they also got rid of their temporary coach in Mike's HD of Immortal Minds fame. So they brought him in, I imagine, to coach as a trial, i.e. unpaid work for First Strike. And then they decided, because they didn't win, that they're just going to nuke the whole thing. Van, can you just give me some semblance of an idea as to what in the fuck G2 is doing here?
Yeah, so Nell, first off, is pretty good. I think in terms of his sources, he's doing a lot of coverage for CS:GO, especially in the French scene, because he's from France. So being close to G2 and getting those sources could be accurate. In terms of David P getting benched or looking for different opportunities for him, I kind of get it, and I kind of don't get it at the same time, because those fives have been as a core for the longest time. But when they changed the meta into the game for G2. They felt like they probably didn't need a Sage anymore. They needed to have a Breach, and his Breach was okay. There was a couple of flops here and there, and it just didn't work out. And I think they're just looking for somebody that is able to fill those roles a little bit better. Kind of sucks. I definitely am angry about that too. And for Mike, basically he joined G2 a couple of months before First Strike, and he was actually helping build the playbook for their strats on Bind. So things were going very well for them during the Ignition series, and they wanted to continue to trial him into First Strike. But after those results, he had to wait for answers, I guess, from management to see what was going to happen. And unfortunately, they didn't. They decided not to continue with that. So unfortunate for Mike. I think he's still looking for coaching opportunities in AEU or whatever. But overall, in terms of one result or one event that you lose to actually have this drama happen for the team, kind of sucks for sure, man. They dominate the whole year. A loss is a loss, and it's maybe the biggest tournament of the year for them. But I don't think that
until the next one
collapsing. Yeah,
it's not like Valorant ended after First Strike.
Exactly.
Mitch, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they've stuffed around so much with David P. Remember when he joined the team?
Yeah,
they had him on like trial for ages, and he was literally carrying them.
He won like
guys
3-4
barreling into B main on Ascent, like 1v4ing people with a ghost, and they were like, "No, we're not sure about this guy."
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So they let the guy. They marinated him for a couple weeks. And honestly, it's a shame to see him depart the team, especially with the sort of tragic circumstances that he has dealt with over the last couple of months as well. Like that's just a lot going on for the guy.
And played a fucking tournament when his dad died. It's like,
I know.
Come on, bro.
One with it too.
Okay, yes, you losing a Team Heretics pretty egregious, right? Not what you want, especially when LOL just literally, shows. I think the hardest part for David P would have been that LOL pretty much single-handedly showed the world that Sage can be a viable option again, just by some of the ways that he was incredibly good at actually shutting down or slowing down rotates, or the Resurrects came in like 1v1 or 2v2 rounds to really swing things. And David P is a Sage aficionado. I'm quite sure he missed playing Sage during the period that she sort of wasn't in vogue. Bear in mind, we talk about how Mike's, helped this team with their bind. That map they dominated Heretics on. So the proof's in the pudding in terms of the coaching.
Yeah,
I heard that. I think Pitt is still on the team, to my understanding, but he's tweeting a bunch about Counter-Strike as well. So I'm not. He might be sort of looking at other options.
And I've also called him up.
Yeah, I've also heard
One
that
more time.
Meadow may have been practicing with this team, so it could
Did you
be
hear
a
that from the
Swedish
chat?
connection there. I saw it on a thread actually on VLR.gg.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, there's from a chess move, or okay, there's the PR angle and then there's the business angle. In business, you make the best move for your team. I understand that. However, you do have to pay some credence to the fact that David P was, to Mitch's point, waffling on the trial bench for a long time, winning. Now, obviously, Sage comes out of the meta, which is just unfortunate. It happens. And in this case, they just decided to kill her entirely. So now it's the question of is this the right way to handle it? Just to say like they're garnering, like, you better believe G2 was all over the fact that David was able to gut out a win, and even though we had this tragedy and all these other things were happening, the story of David P really boosted G2. And then to just have one loss and then shed him like this, and Pith, maybe Pith wants to leave. But Pith has some CS:GO connections, so I guess he has more value, so he gets to keep his contract, or maybe that's the discussion there. But they just ousted David entirely. So I really don't agree with this move from a feels and vibes standpoint, which is in 2020 vibes are important, and the vibes here are not good. I don't like it.
Still, speaking of vibes, hats off to David P though. I think ever since the news came out, this guy's still like streaming nonstop, doing late night streams, like at midnight his time, 3 a.m. his time, and he's just grinding the game. So it shows how passionate he is about Valorant, and how he wants to continue his career in the scene, and that hopefully he gets that opportunity soon with another team.
This I don't think we really had planned to slot this into the show, but it's just been announced as well that Null Panky have disbanded.
Again, doesn't shock me. That's it's one of those things where if you unsigned, don't really have a lot of prospects in Europe right now, which is still very strange. But if Pith does go back to Counter-Strike, I think that would be the most telling of the EU mindset at the top level, which is like, like, okay, I've won a bunch of Valorant tournaments, but I really want to go back to the A game, which is Counter-Strike. Do you agree with that, Mitch? Do you think that in Europe that it's the Counter-Strike show?
I mean, based on my time there, sure. It's been a couple of years since I resided out that way. I also look. I think we've seen a lot of like European Counter-Strike players, or not many, have sort of come across to Valorant, or not many huge sort of high-profile signings. The scene is still quite robust out there. But I mean, the only reason we're talking about this is because I just said that he'd been tweeting about Counter-Strike. But you have to understand, the people that Peter has played with, he has incredible experience from his time on NIP, playing with some of the greatest minds in Counter-Strike. Some of the greatest minds that have ever touched a game of Counter-Strike. The guy was in a good position. He sort of came in just before Draken did, so obviously that's what NIP was starting to go through, a sort of a refreshment. Some of the younger players were in there, but he played alongside some of the greatest minds as they sort of went on the way out there. So like, are we arguing that maybe is he more valuable than David P in that experience? I think he's got a very, very wide body of experience at the competitive level, but this is also might be G2 saying, hey, if there's any time that we want to make a meteoric change to the team and have plenty of run up into, next year, it's here, right? By the same token, you could also say, hey, we have a couple months to work out issues with our current roster. So something tells me that they have come to an impasse with one or both of these players that they don't think any amount of time is actually going to fix. And I'm a little surprised it happened so quickly with a player like David P that they've gotten to this point. So there might be a compatibility issue fundamentally there inside this team.
Maybe they have some sort of alarm as a team too for G2 or just teams in Europe in general, because when you're looking at the state of the game for Valorant out there, the amount of BO1s that you had, how cutthroat it is, as soon as you lose, it's over. So maybe they just want to have that winning formula right away for some of these teams where, not the best decisions come out of it.
Also, Artis is on this team. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure Artis is the kind of guy that if someone is not very good, they're going to know about it. Be like, yeah, you're shit, man. Get off me team, you bellend.
For some reason, every time I hear Artis talk, I can only picture him with like a half mug of beer and a cigarette in his mouth. Just like
and a Liverpool jersey on, you know what I mean? Like it's incredible.
Yelling at traffic. Oh my god. Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that this is the way that esports has to go, but this is the way she goes. In further news, we did touch on it already. Meadow is leaving FPX. Meadow was one of the very, very first people in one of the very first games I ever watched in Valorant. So to see him go from just some random ass tournament in the very beginning of Valorant all the way to FPX and now finally leaving, there is some questions about where he's going to go, because this is not this is again a fit thing. It doesn't feel as I use the word desperate lightly here, but doesn't feel as desperate for Meadow because he's got options. He's not a Sage one trick. So I'm not to say that David P can't adapt later, but I think Meadow has would you say, Van, a more well-rounded game than David P?
Well, right now, Meadow has been playing a lot of games as a Cypher and a Killjoy too, right? When he was playing with FPX. So with him leaving the team and then the rumors of him trying out with G2, you kind of want to know what the direction that's going to go, because Pith used to play Cypher and Killjoy as well for G2. So who is he really going to replace? Is he there to replace David P? Is he there to replace Pitt? Who are they really trying to find for their fifth player for G2? Well, now with Mitch saying that Noel Penke kind of died down as well, you mean
more prospects?
There's CNET in there. That's amazing to look at too. So there's a lot of big options, but just to be back on the top of Meadow, yes, definitely. I think he has a deeper Asian pool, but still remaining in that certain type of responsibility of playing a Sentinel. So to compare him versus David P, I don't think it's fair because it's two different play styles, but I definitely do think that he does have the opportunity to get more options because FPX is also at that arguably number 1, number 2 team in Europe for the past 6 months.
Absolutely.
Similar position for FPX, I think, for G2. I think FPX actually came into, this is a favorite, right? G2 spent so much time being on top. But I've seen this so many times in like early esports scenes, how there's like a team that's dominant and they never get back there, right? They probably fear the same thing. So I think that FPX are in a very similar position. It's like, who is this British upstart roster, Summon FC, who just boomed us the heck out of the finals? Like, how is this happening? That we have developed a team. This team obviously is. Party Parrots and Fabricant put together like two of the most promising rosters in early European Valorant. There is a pedigree there, there's expectation, and then they go and lose to, a roster that is relatively unknown,
And they're all soccer players.
Yeah, they're all soccer players. Not to mention like British players in esports. It's been a long time since any of those have been particularly relevant. I think they suffer the same problem as G2. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, my guys. And I think that is it an overreaction? I don't know. They just want to try and make sure they start next year with a solid 5 and they start strong. So I'm not too shocked.
I think that you need to weigh all business decisions through the lens of emotion and how I feel about something. So just make sure that G2 next time, just give me a call. I'll let you know what you should do based on my feelings, based on Twitter. So we have one last move as well. It is Kohler. This was actually one of the first updates. This was back on the 8th, way back on the 8th. So he's benched from Energy and is still under contract. Rather. Expect more streams. So it's been a bit of a bouncy ride for Kohler.
I mean, Yeah, since then, JMO's also been benched. That announcement came more recently. So, I mean, obviously this roster needs, Immortals definitely needed to fix some things. Like, if you hear, like, Dazed gave a pretty succinct, Haste, sorry, gave a pretty succinct explanation of what he thought about Immortals. He thought they were incredibly one-dimensional. They had like aggression, right? They go fast, but no real sort of macro understanding of the game, or at least they didn't display that effectively. Like, they were just one-dimensional. They run at you, and then they died, and then they did it again in the next round. So not a very charitable way to to explain an entire team. But obviously Immortals will be very disappointed with what happened in First Strike, getting dominated by Envy in those quarterfinals. So yeah, another team cleaning house, and Kohler not the first. He seems to be doing really well with his stream though, so good on him. But yeah, I'm not surprised to see Immortals also clean house. Any team that really doesn't get to that top 4 or isn't in the top 4 conversation should be trying to make these changes.
Well, actually, with Kohler's story is he was actually already away from the Immortals roster when they got into First Strike, because he was already trying out with Energy, with Daps coming into the scene with Som as well, and I think they brought in Chet, which is also a big coach coming in from the Counter Strike scene. So, Kohler is very, very, very skilled mechanically and is a very, very good duelist. And then you look at some part in NRG where they had him play like a Sentinel, or they had him play like Smokes or something like that. So they themselves are trying out different things with the main core that they want. And unfortunately, maybe the playstyle that they're looking for in Kohler doesn't fit with the team. And that's the same story as what's happening with G2, with probably what's happening with FPX. So you want to know where Kohler is going to be next. And I think it's a team that's looking for firepower and a duelist. I mean, I think he would have been a great, maybe not a great pickup for Cloud9, because they already have great duelists in there. But anybody that's looking for that type of firepower is definitely should have their sights on Kohler in my eyes.
I feel like there was this little bit of lag. Like, we had the PUBG guys kind of get swept out for the replacement team that came in, and now it kind of feels like it's starting to happen to those who missed that first wave and are maybe slowly starting to find their way with less and less spots to land ultimately. So I think that this thing is going to continue as teams shift, because these teams are going to break up, and it's going to be, okay, well, we have one spot on Cloud9, we have one spot here, and only the best of the best are going to make it. And then these the remnants are going to have to make comeback teams, and it's the natural ebb and flow of talent in and out of esports. So
yes,
this next 6 months, or well, even the next 3 months, as we find out what the next since the JBL Quantum Cup is now over, we don't really know what the next few months look like. And now we have a roadmap, but we might have a completely different landscape of teams coming into the scene at the onset of next year.
I would say as well, I'm pretty familiar with the coaching staff on the Immortals side, right? Because they cut their teeth in Overwatch, Packing 10, and Gunbo actually used to be an Overwatch pro player. He was actually he's an Aussie bloke who I know pretty well. The way that they have been praised for the rosters that Immortals have produced that have gone on to other teams. Yes. I don't think people have been pretty forthcoming with their appreciation, and they're very systematic. Gunbo is he was like a computer science grad. He was incredibly systematic in his approach to sort of being a coach. So combined with Packing 10, who has a military background, I think he actually has a really good grasp of how leadership operates and how to garner respect of players. So I still trust their process, and I think 100%. That the fruits of their labor has already been made pretty clear, and those players have gone on to find greater success either with others that were on that Immortals roster or outside of that. So yeah, Immortals fans, don't stress too much, but these are big changes that these guys are making. I mean, they're no stranger to it. They've the amount of times they've sliced and diced their Overwatch team and put it back together to try and find success there is also quite large. So stick with them. I think they'll be fine.
We have run out of roster moves, and I don't think that's going to be the last one we hear about in the next week or two. But we do have another special guest standing by. We have the good luck to have the Bears with us, otherwise known as Erik Stromberg, the coach for Rise Nation. Wanted to welcome him to the show. Erik, are you with us? There we go. We found him. Doing good, thank you. I hope you're well. First of all, thanks for joining us. I guess since you've probably been sitting here listening to us talk about all of the different roster moves and being a coach yourself, I guess I wanted to get your insight. Let's just talk about G2. What do you think about the G2 moves? Okay, yeah, it's just okay.
We got you. We got you. You are you hovering over your window? Is the microphone? Did you turn it off and on again?
It's the technology limitations of trying to get 4 people in a room to all have video and audio together.
Yeah, so meanwhile, I guess while we're trying, because I guess the stream doesn't hear Erik right now. So little bio about Erik. He EG the Bears, 3D the Bears, Zex the Bears. He's played on so many prolific NA teams back in like the golden era of Counter-Strike 1.6. We are old. We are all old. You even played for Complexity at some point, didn't you, Erik? Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
okay.
So tell you what,
All right.
we'll come back. We'll come back to Erik once we get once we get Erik sorted out, we'll bring him back in. Tell you what, we'll take a very brief break. When we come back, we hopefully have Erik's audio issues sorted out, and we'll get right back into that. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back for more Valoranting. Welcome back to Valoranting, and we now have Erik ready to rock and roll. We got the mic situation sorted out. Excellent. So I wanted to bounce that last question back to you again. How do you feel about the G2 moves?
So the G2, absolute rubbish. I do not like the idea that the top team from Europe for so many months just replaces a couple players after one tournament. Now, obviously, I do not like that, but there's probably things behind the scenes that we don't know of. Maybe some inner clan problems here and there. I know that David P never really recovered from, as you guys said, a Sage 1 trick from before, and that's how he made his name in the team. But I'm thinking maybe it's a comp problem. Usually a lot of top teams, if they have a big problem, it's usually something to do with their personality or their communication. So I'm going to assume it's the communication part. That's just a shot in the dark. I remember seeing a video a long time ago of G2 where their whole team was surprised that David P's pushed up, on Haven all by himself, without saying a word. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But also, I've heard a little bit of news with Pith behind the scenes. So a little juicy info that he might play with a team, an all Swedish team. So that's
okay.
So that's what maybe help prompt him to leave in G2 to be a more team for his home country.
So I did, and I have a radar for this, so you'll have to excuse me, but I did detect the word clan recently.
Yeah, you dated yourself big time.
A little bit, yeah. That's so bring it back to 2002.
So not
right
only
there.
have we aged you to roughly the mid to late 1980s.
Well, we all smiled though.
So I would like to know a little bit of your history. Now, obviously, Boomer Vansilli here already started dropping like 15-year-old Counter-Strike references. So
literally,
give me a brief history of Erik Stromberg.
Brief history of Erik Stromberg. So I'll just start with esports because that's the only thing relevant in my life to talk about. So I'd say I started playing esports, or I guess online video games, around 1999, 2000 for Half-Life. And that's when I got into TFC, and eventually when Counter-Strike came out. I started the day Counter-Strike came out in 1999. I had like 400 ping, terrible computer, but I enjoyed the game so much. I just played it pretty much every day over the summertime when I was at school and whatnot, and it just continued.
I played it at school.
You played it at school?
Yeah, we installed it on all the like before we had like system technicians, and they didn't realize what sort of damage children could do to like unfiltered internet and all this other stuff. So we like downloaded Counter-Strike on all the all the school computers, and like we were in computer lab doing whatever, supposed to be learning about career and life management.
Yes, that
We're
is
playing
life.
playing Counter Strike.
Video games is life, at least for me at the time growing up. And yeah, it's after Counter Strike, I pretty much played that professionally for, I don't know, 8 to 9 years, depending on, the 2008 crash. You could take out a year or two out of that, because that was a big.
We all had to get jobs.
They had to get real jobs. I went back to college and just got some degree in art and science
Oh,
and
good.
stuff like that.
So you wanted to stay in video games.
I wanted to stay in video games. I was just like, I wanted to get out, but it pulled me right back in. Why not? So whatever. Got that over with, and then I did a little bit more behind the scenes of like, I worked for MLG and stuff like that for a little bit, doing the COD and Halo and all that, like the consoles and whatnot. And well, actually, coming back to CS, little fun fact for people watching the show: Do Not Peek is based off of Sir Scoot's Do Not Peek bat. I don't know if you guys ever talked about that on the show, but he carried at CPL, Sir Scoots, one of the co-founders of the show. He'd have like a small mini bat. It was like this big, and it said "Do Not Peek" on it. And he would hit his teammates over his hands to say, "Don't peek, do not peek." And he used that to discipline his team. I think it was UGP at the time. Old team.
I want to know. Hold on, I gotta do a quick Google. So, is the Gaylord still in operation in Texas? I'm trying to find it.
I think. Well, they used to do QuakeCon up to, I think, a couple years ago, because
they must have rebranded that place by now. No, they still don't. No, Texan Resort and Convention Center. Yeah, they still have it.
I think esports might be banned from the Gaylord. Because
oh really? They learned their lesson.
Of years and years of people pissing in the river, destroying.
Oh my god!
Just stuff all over the place.
Gamers.
They're just.
I can confirm. I was there in 2015. I don't think it was at that place in QuakeCon in 2015 in Dallas. I don't think it was at that particular.
QuakeCon's at a different place. Like it's in the. It's like 15, 20 minutes away from the Gaylord or something like that. I know it's in Texas, and they may have had QuakeCon like once or twice there, but they usually have it. I can't remember the name, but it's almost the same thing. People would be pissing everywhere, trashing.
CS that got esports banned there.
Realistically, that place should be like a esports heritage site. Like we should have like a new global, like like every poutine shop within 10 blocks of a convention center. They have like protected areas.
So it's the Lanxess, the Spodek, and the Gaylord.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the Hyatt,
Lattice Arena.
Remember the Hyatt?
And the Hyatt.
Yes.
Yeah, the Hyatt was
it was like the Hyatt was for the winter, the Gaylord was for the summer for many years, and then just
it was.
Gamers
I was
and
desperate
balls.
as a.
No, you guys are making me feel young. I can't believe I'm saying that.
You don't remember any of this, Mitch?
No, I mean to be fair, the first time I set foot in the United States was 2015 for a random Doom thing at QuakeCon.
Ooh.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh yeah.
I was 14 years old and just be like, I think if I save all my allowance money and maybe try and you figure out a way to get down there, because I worked with TSN back in the day, man. I'm not sure if you know this.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, for about 8 minutes until I realized that Counter Strike was full and no one was letting me in. So,
sorry, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, God. Anyway, so without going too far down memory lane, to which no one, even our other host, has any idea what we're talking about.
I'm 29. That's young, I think, in this landscape.
Well, I'm 33, and
Zoomer,
those 4 years, like, you're like, these fucking old guys.
I'm getting close to the 4-0, man. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Don't
So
remind me.
Van, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you have a question highlighted there? Why don't you jump in?
Yeah, sure. Erik, so I know we know each other from CS and stuff like that too, and you finished your career with Counter-Strike. So and you went into coaching now. So why did you decide to switch into Valorant for coaching instead of really trying to find your opportunities with CS? That was your bread and butter.
That's a pretty good question. As for CS goes, I think after a while, after doing something for so many years, you kind of get tired of it a little bit. Like just CS in general. I've been in the scene for over 15 years. And even though I still love and enjoy CS and support the community, I felt like when Valorant came out, of course, it's a big company like Riot hosting it. And, they they themselves are saying that they're going to do a lot for esports, and in general, I love esports in general, and so I felt like, okay, Valorant's kind of like 1.6. You know, some of the people who develop Valorant were 1.6 players, so it has some similarities. It's a new game, and I just found it a lot of fun when I first downloaded it and started playing it. Kind of like when I started playing, you know, the first time I played Counter Strike back in the day. So I just had fun. I kept rolling with it. I kept playing with it, and randomly, Anger, one of my teammates that I coach, he messaged me out of the blue asking if, you know, his team's looking for a coach, you know, person with experience. And at that time, I just got let go of from Team Energy because I was managing one of their esports teams, Clash Royale, at the time. And this is when COVID was like starting to ramp up around like February or March. And so they had to, like, you know, close some doors with that, and eventually, you know, it eventually leading to me to be let go from Team Energy, and it was just pretty much really good timing on Todd asking me, and then, you know, the transition to the coach.
I have a resume question. You know, if you've been around as long as you have, and obviously you've been through the process of both leaving and joining teams. When you're sending out the proverbial resume, what are you pointing to as like the flagship?
I think, I mean, I think one of the highest things is experience. Since I've been in it for so long, usually that sticks out the most in terms of on the resume. Like, oh, I've been in esports for 20 years. So, you know, if an org or an investor is like just hopping into this, they usually want to go for more experienced people, at least to kind of feel them out, to ask their opinions and what they think. And so, um, just being in it for so long has created a lot of opening doors for me, and so I'm able to like be a manager, do some commentating for CS:GO like 1 or 2 years ago, and then eventually, you know, knowing Todd for so many years, was able to get that too. So I think experience is definitely up there, and just not only just experience, but me bouncing around. I've been a player, a manager, I've been coach, I've been those people that slave away at building the actual tournament itself, you know, like setting it up, the broadcasting, the tech part. I mean, it takes an insane amount of work and people to make a tournament like MLG or ETS even happen. It just takes so much coordination and just the love of dedication. So I think the combination of all that, I've seen like the whole picture. I've seen like behind the scenes as well as, you know, being a player or I guess person at the game.
I mean, I think you're uniquely qualified to answer this question, Eric, having been like a big part of so many different facets of the whole esports like flowchart, right? Like
Yeah.
player, coach, commentator, you know, all that. What is your take on sort of what we've heard announced for 2021 for Valorant, especially, you know, not just in general, but of course how it affects maybe you and your team as, you know, Rise Nation are still occupying sort of that T2 sort of, you know, substrata.
Mhm.
I mean, what do you think the schedule? How do you think the schedule affects maybe tier two teams maybe differently? But in general, how do you sort of feel about their vision for the coming year?
Well, I mean, I'm always excited for, you know, a game like Valorant expanding so big to include tier two teams, because in CS:GO, obviously there was, you know, tier two teams as well, but it's always that huge step from tier two to tier one, whether it's skill, money, whatever it is. And with Valorant, though, it's just, you know, since it's a new game and there, you know, a lot of people want to jump in this bandwagon. They want to open tournaments. They want to run events. First Strike, you know, wants like, it almost has like a chip on his shoulder that they have to dethrone Counter Strike. You know, they're the new
Yep.
FPS in the town.
Yep.
They have to dethrone Counter Strike, so they're going to go all out. They're going to try to do as much as he can. That's like the plus sides. The negatives kind of side of this whole thing is that, you know, for tier two teams, you still got to put in the almost the same or even more amount of time to compete with some of these tier one teams like Cloud9 or whoever that has salary. They have, you know, everything taken care of for them. They have multiple coaches or analysts and stuff like that. So you got to figure out how to beat them while trying to make almost ends meet on your own. Whether if because a lot of these tier 2 players are going to school, they have second jobs on top of playing 8 to 10 hours a day almost, and so it can get a little hectic, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. But if you love it and you keep doing it, eventually good things will come to you.
Actually,
Dedication.
yeah, and to tie into that, Eric, or the Bears, to ask about the tier 2 scene and the competition, because right now the idea of what we saw with First Strike was that it was a bunch of open tournaments, 128 teams that could sign up, and everybody could actually participate and get into it.
Mhm.
But the schedule is actually quite heavy. Do you think that right now for the tier 2 scene, for you guys and anybody else that's competing that's trying to make it into tier 1 scene, this is the right formula, or how do you envision that for the tier 2 scene?
I think open is definitely the best for up and coming teams, because obviously, if you put in the work and you do well and you upset a team that is a lot better than you will get attention. People will turn their heads, and you'll possibly get invited to more tournaments, or you might get an extra player, or like whatever the case may be. But it's I like it. It just I'm not a big fan of online open tournaments. I'd rather I like the old CPL version where it's on LAN open. So that's when the
You had
crazy
to just
matches
show up
happen.
and compete.
You show
You
up
had
and
to bring your
compete.
own computer. You had to bring. You just had to show up on site and
To
be
the
like, "All
Gaylord."
right,
to the
Yeah,
Gaylord. At home you got
prove yourself in the biggest arena
you got these
at
armrests
the
at home.
Gaylord.
You got your Coca-Cola, you got your Mountain Dew, just sitting
You
right
got
next
your
to the
Air
computer.
Monarchs and your denim shirt.
You're sitting
Shout
in
out
your
to Mitch.
underwear. You can't do that on LAN. You can't sit in your underwear on LAN. I've tried that once and almost got my sponsors revoked. So don't do that. They didn't like that at all. But the online open tournament invites for a lot of crazy stuff as well. But the thoughts always in the back of your mind, like, is this guy legit? Is he real deal? Is he the next Zywoo, or is he having a really lucky game or something? And it's just it's on LAN. There's a lot less variance in terms of just like crazy bullshit happening.
It's like I'm gonna call it the Pora effect, like where you have this one stretch of games. You're like, this man is clearly the best player in all of esports at all. So and then all of a sudden you kind of come back down to earth, and it's about finding that right combination of personalities. So I guess with someone with as much experience as you do, how do you identify the skill that you look for as a coach? Like what beyond the clickmans are you most interested in?
Obviously, you always want to get a person with good aim and that, has awesome intuition. But in order to compete against top teams, you have to have good communication and willing to adjust your gameplay. Like, for example, we could take Kohler is probably one of the better examples of this, where, coming from his previous team, Immortals, he started off as a smoke main, and then he eventually went to the Cypher kind of sentinel role, and then with Energy he was put on a duelist, something that you kind of practice a smoke and or a smoke and sentinel for how many months. You go to a team like Team Energy, who's going to just be playing tier 1 teams all the time, whether it's practice or in matches, and then you completely kind of change up the role, which is changing up the play style. So it makes it a bit more difficult to, I guess, adjust to in that kind of situation. But as for a coach, it's definitely the comms and being able to work with teammates, come up with new ideas. And at this point in the game, it's really difficult in general, because it's a new game. So you have a plethora of new players. You got Fortnite, you got PUBG, you got even some Call of Duty players and whatnot. You got the old Counter-Strike that are kind of coming over and almost taking over the scene a little bit. Because again, the mechanics are pretty similar from like Counter-Strike and Valorant. I mean, it's kind of like a 1.6 mixed in with an Overwatch kind of style. So you do see a couple Overwatch players excelling, like Sinatra and stuff. But I think number one is probably comms, because there's some days where your aim's just completely off. Okay, it's just how it is. Or they're having an insane game. Like if you play against skadoodle. Sometimes he's literally the best player in the world with his op, and he hits every single shot. And then sometimes, like, like how do I bypass this? Maybe I can make my teammates play a bit better. Maybe taking the bait. Maybe I'm calming something a little bit better, like small things like that.
Absolutely. Erik, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you. We have to jump into some discussion of the JBL Quantum Cup. We have a lot to unpack from this very pivotal post first strike tournament. So we are going to let you go. Thank you so much for answering our questions and reminding me that I'm not the oldest person in the room.
I'm old. Yeah, I'm old.
I appreciate that. It's very rare these days. So thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see more of you in the near future. Thank you, my man.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
See you later.
Erik.
All right, Erik Stromberg, otherwise known as the Bears from Rise Nation, the coach there. So thank you so much for him for joining. And I touched on a little bit. We've been kind of memeing on. I've been memeing on JBL because I don't value my career. Let's talk about the Quantum Cup. This was it's kind of like what's the denouement? How do you say it? I can't remember. Whatever happens after the climax, otherwise known as either crying or leaving. So let's see. Let's see here. So we have these are Group A and Group B. We had 100 Thieves, FaZe Clan, Team Envy, Ninja's team, otherwise known as Time In, and Genji Esports, Sentinels, TSM, and Cloud9. So the first thing that stands out to me, Mitch, I don't know about you, it's that big goose egg down by Cloud9. Even Time In was able to pick up a win in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Cloud9 come out with like a minus. I want to say it's like minus 21 in round difference here. I mean, they had a tough one. I think they go up against TSM. They actually put up a decent fight against them. That's like a 13-9 match. That was actually not on stream. And then they go up against Genji. They look worse against Genji. I'm starting to realize Genji also, they tend to thrive against teams that don't pressure them mechanically too hard. So I think with Genji really thrive against a team like C9, who definitely doesn't have their ducks in a row at this time. And then the Sentinels game wasn't very close. So we got to see very little of C9. Now, a lot of people were fuming at the crew at JBL and, flaming the casters. The thing is that like teams couldn't, like, teams had to ask specifically, I think, if they wanted to stream them, and a lot of teams just didn't want to stream their games. So the reason that T1 did is because they wanted to stream with comms, but there are caveats to that. We'll get into it later. Cloud9, though, look, I mean, you might say this is the crying or leaving. For me, this is the breakfast the next morning. The eggs are kind of overdone. Maybe the bacon is too crispy, but it's okay. I'm tucking in them, and I can look across the table at this tournament and still look them in the eye and not maybe regret everything that happened.
Oh yeah, we'll do this again. Yeah, definitely next time we have some Q4 ad spend we don't have any use for. We're gonna, we'll
maybe we get some mimosas or something. I mean, another 10K tournament, 50K. That's fine. But yeah, so this matchup against Genji, I mean, there wasn't a ton to say here. Cloud9 used Leaf on a couple of different roles actually throughout this event, and maybe they're just trying to sort of see where he's at. He ended up playing Reyna in the last match, right? So Relics was on the Omen, so they tried a ton of different stuff. A lot of teams tried different things in this kind of tournament. Cloud9 maybe don't expect to win it. Best of ones are a nightmare to navigate, especially with how the pick band sort of goes. So. Fair play to C9. I'm not mad about it. You know what I mean? I'm glad we got to kind of, at least we got one look at it. But I saw Jack actually in chat sort of complaining like, oh yeah, this is Leaf's big debut against, I think it was TSM or whatever. And
yeah,
we're watching Ninja's team beat FaZe or whatever. So I could see that, I think Cloud9 were hoping to get a little bit more sort of airtime, but hey, you gotta get to day 2, fam. I mean, then you could get a best of 3 on stream,
My favorite owner Twitch moments are always when they show up in the chat and do something like they put the C9 emote or something like that, and everyone starts adding them. And then they realize that they're losing, and then it'll just be like, well, oh man, I'm really excited for Leaf. I think it's gonna be great. And then like someone informs them of what the score line is. Oh yeah, Jack.
It's like, my jet to the Caymans is already here. Well, good luck, boys.
See you later, everybody. Me and Henry are going on another boozer. So
I think, look, Cloud9, they actually were they were interesting. They tried to sell a lot of fakes to Genji on Split. They didn't work out So definitely C9. We're trying some things out. Gen G are incredibly resilient to fakes though. Like they just call the bluff like 10 times out of 10. So Gen G have a really cruisy group stage, but it kind of goes downhill from them there. I'm happy to see Cloud9. Obviously the FaZe Clan versus Time In match was in one we did get to see on stream, and it was interesting to say the least. Time In, obviously, we know with this roster, right? I mean, obviously Ninja is on this roster. Grego is actually a very recognizable face on that team as well, as from Overwatch, actually. He played Lucio in Overwatch, and he's a really dedicated player, great mindset, extremely coachable, very mechanically skilled individual. So he looks incredible on Raze in the second half of this match, but you can try and put glitter on a turd, but at the end of the day, this is two teams that are very mechanically strong, that maybe are less concerned about the macro aspect of gameplay. They're taking aim duels, and they're trying to match each other in terms of individual skill. This Danny guy, don't know who he is, pretty friggin' sharp. But neither team really reinvented the wheel when it came to actually how this map's played. So it was just a slugfest of people trying to take aim duels and try to set up little trades, and that's about as intellectual as this match got.
Yeah, my favorite aspect of Time In, and there's a meme being shared around about someone getting mad about them being called Ninja's team instead of Time In, which is Ninja's brand. Anyway, as far as the way that these teams are, I guess the word constructed is what I'll use, or put together on a whim, or whatever you want to call it. Ninja has infinite access to cracked out teenagers because he really commands them all via like his Twitter throne.
Yeah, he's the Pied Piper of cracked out teenagers.
Exactly. So every once in a while, like Morgos, Grego, and of course Ninja have always been on this team. There was a time where Vegas was on it for a little while, and then he's moved on.
Lex was on there too.
Lex was there as well. I think that was the original kind of with Lex on there. So now they've swapped out Vegas and Lex for Kurt and Danny. Who he found at a corner store on Twitter. So like, oh, you guys play video games? Come on with me. We're going to play in a tournament called the JBL Quantum Cup.
Well, Kurt's been in the scene for quite a bit too. I think he was on the T1 Academy team with the EU back then as well, when they were looking for like an academy team to scrim with the main team.
Does T1 still have an academy team? I have not been paying attention.
Not anymore. Okay. So I think Caboose or Mummy, sorry, used to be part of that academy team as well, and then they kind of all got poached, and then they had the opportunities, and look at them today. So even Kurt playing in an academy team and now joining in with, when we were talking about Ninja having Lex and all that too, it was 100 be lifted, where Sony was in the roster too, and they were kind of like the streamer team having fun and stuff like that. But
and then WoW Classic came out, and Sonny was
that's it.
Just gone.
He's gone to that. But it still shows that you have a core 3 players that still want to continue and rebranding into Time In, into Ninja's brand,
whatever you
want to say, that practice
about.
in. Getting a map out of FaZe is actually is not easy, and I would be happy for them too. I think if I look overall at this tournament for JBL, if you're looking at maybe the top 4 teams or whatnot that's played in there, if they lost, whatever, they made it into the top 8, top 4 of First Strike, they're burnt out. They went through a whole gauntlet of like a month and a half of practice leading into First Strike. Now they wanted to decompress. They had to play this tournament, but then you're looking at, for example, Time In. You're looking at Cloud9, you're looking at FaZe, and you're looking at Gen G even then. Like, they want to prove something. They want to show that they have what it takes. And it's a great opportunity for them to just hash out a couple of things and practice a couple of strategies that they didn't have a chance to at First Strike, and then get ready for 2021. And I think that's why, like, when we looked at the groups, we see, like, Gen G at a 3-0. I think they wanted it a little bit more than the other teams that, wanted that kind of like holiday break.
I mean, yeah, just before we move on from the group stage, definitely a couple of things to be mentioned still. I think like people get mad about best of ones, and like obviously they don't really do anything for me. I just don't get enough of substance from it, but I understand that's how they want to run this tournament. The thing is that there was some value to take away from these games. One game, no value could be taken from it, was Team Solo Mid versus Sentinels. The first time we get to see these teams play since the FaZe Invitational, for Christ's sake.
Long time.
I mean, if I could see Hazed POV, you could almost see the edge of the fistball mojito sitting on his desk.
Yeah. It's like whose line is it anyway? Where the points are made up and nothing matters. It's
Absolutely. And TSM are the Colin Mockery of the show. They turn up to the show, they never win it, but they say something funny in the hoedown segment. You know, they have a good line.
This is the only thing I'm gonna do the whole time.
Just up on stage like this. But
Unless there's a Wayne Brady in there.
TSM are, you know, it was not an impressive game from them. We didn't see much from them really at all. I think that Sentinels just it was a scent. They just had some really effective hits on A. We're seeing TSM. Remember, TSM love the triple duelist setup, which I think doesn't offer them much utility on the defending side of the map. So whenever I see TSM start on defense with triple duelist, and it's not a map that necessarily, you know, defensively caters to maybe Razor's ability to stuff pushes with, you know, well-timed nades or anything like that. Like, I always wonder, you know, how many rounds they're going to get here. It's just a shame that that's the first time we've seen them in so long, and there wasn't really much going on there. But that, I mean, like, and I'm not TSM. Say what you like about them, they may have been trying. I don't think it really matters. It's the best of one at the end of the day. One team, though, who took a very different tack to this entire thing was actually T1. 100 Thieves, sorry.
Were they in this? Oh, I was going to say, what the fuck?
100 Thieves. 100 Thieves, they were using their old strats. Nitro was calling.
Yes.
Dicey was playing Sage.
Yeah.
And their they were trying to do these well, I mean, not the whole time. They were trying to do these defaults
steals behind
without
this
jet dash. Like, it was really odd. I mean, it worked for them, but they were streaming all of their matches, right?
Exactly.
So not much incentive. Like, 100 Thieves wanted to stream it, makes sense. Maybe the org wanted them to do it. Whatever.
Oh yeah, for sure they did.
JBL.
Yeah,
of
course.
But
Please
what's
stream
funny?
it, please.
The funniest part of this is that Hiko literally got on camera and sort of shit talked playing Sage for like 6 minutes straight. Said how Europe are behind the meta, how LOL on Sage was just a flash in the pan, as a fluke, it doesn't matter. And Dicey's playing Sage in the entire best of one phase. You know, they are like, this is like the Da Vinci Code. You need to look between the lines 100 Thieves play and see they are just memeing on people.
Just don't use a black light to look for evidence. It's so like there is I think Hiko is like everyone looks at Hiko as like this, you know, I'm going to use the word affable, just kind of, you know, just a guy who, you know, he's been around, he's got a hat on, you know, man, he's a clutch mask, you know, the finger guns. Hey, how you doing? But in reality, he's like a calculated, like I want to say manipulative, but like calculated, like operator who's just like, yeah, I'm going to shit talk Sage, then we're going to play him. These idiots are not going to see it coming. So.
Best part of this, by the way, they still 13-0 envy playing these
I was going to say, 13 years.
It's one of those things where you're like, on the other side, when you're getting 13-0, like, yeah, we were just memeing too. Single tear down the cheek. 100 Thieves. I love the energy of this team, and I am such a Steel fanboy, and I have been ever since I met the dude, that he just brings and I think it maybe affects the people around him in a similar way, where because he is so confident and intelligent around how he even fucks around, it just kind of inspires the people around him, and to see them have success while messing around is just such a fun thing to witness, and I assume that 100 Thieves is going to be the hotness coming into next year. Even
for sure.
Especially coming off such a high-profile victory here at the JBL Quantum Cup.
We did get to see them stop memeing, but it was for one map, and it was a little bit too late. So obviously, one of my favorite match from the whole series, I think it was really exciting, was 100 Thieves versus Sentinels. Like, you know, it really kind of cleansed my palate of the tossery of the day before with all these best of ones. And we got to see like a really fun best of 3 series. Sideshow mentioned this on Platcher. I don't want to I'm not taking credit for what he said, but I think this makes perfect sense. He mentioned how like that matchup is really map specific, and it comes down to the pick ban a lot, just because Sentinels are really strong on Haven, but 100 Thieves on Bind and Ascend look really dominant right now. So you see either team sort of ban those maps out, and Icebox actually becomes relevant in a series between those two teams, because they are so adamant on banning some of these maps. They don't have a lot of map pool overlap there. So we did get to see that in that series. That was fun. Obviously, there's been changes to Icebox recently. Most crucially, it's on the A side, right? Where defenders usually can hold. There's like a little box on the, if you're looking from the attacker's perspective on like the bottom right, yeah, it's kind of gone. I used to call that, I call that rat hole because Steel always seemed to get like 3Ks playing defensively from that position.
Rat hole.
That series was really, really good. I think we saw Sky being used there as well. Still very impressed with what we're seeing. The way Sick is just, I love this guy. He plays such a variety of agents and he looks so good on all of them. And I think that Icebox is really a map where Sky can shine. It's a little bit hard to get value out of Sova sometimes, especially if you're attacking on the A site, because you're trying to get recon dart value when there's all these walls and like it's like an S shape as you walk in can be difficult. But, you know, getting the burbs, apparently a bird in the air in someone's face clawing their eyes is better than two in the back pocket.
God, yeah.
So
the birds come from.
That was great. We did see the same thing from Zeta, I think, from Cloud9 Korea on the same map. So that may have been, you know, taken from them in a way. But Shazam was playing op on defensive side A and just wrecked. Every single time. Every time 100 Thieves tried to push up, he would just bang them right the heck out. So he looked imperious over that entire series and over the whole day. So great series. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. I learned a bunch. And you know, if you watch the 100 Thieves perspective, they stopped having Nitro Call because they didn't actually have reserve strats for that map. They only
leaning
had the strats
forward in the gaming chairs.
Steel started calling a little bit more.
So you can actually, if you want to know what 100 Thieves actually do on Icebox, then you go and see that map. It didn't work, but I think a big part of it was Shazam just ruining them because they just kept going out. Everyone goes out on their map. I get it. But if you have a really strong operator player, obviously if there's Jet, you could dash away. Like you find that first pick and reposition. Even without the box in the bottom right, it's really strong. Ran over. Great series though. I really enjoyed it.
Actually, just to add on to that, I did like it watching from the player's perspective too. Of course, I had the JBL stream open, but I was hanging out in Steel's channel as well. And it's just funny how you're getting into the pregame and these guys are just joking around between Sentinels and 100 Thieves. And when you're looking at the Twitter world, everybody is like kind of like bashing each other for fun. But sometimes the majority of the community thinks that they take things very seriously and they start to like have their own storylines of how these teams hate each other. But there's just so much fun and camaraderie between these players and these teams when they're in the server and even in person. So I did like seeing that aspect. And you saw how 100 Thieves, they were like joking around the whole time. Asuna couldn't stop laughing. I think he developed an 8-pack during the pregame because of all the delays that were happening. But once they actually got into the game, they were laughing for a bit. And like you said, Mitch, somehow like the switch kind of turned and then they wanted to get a little bit more serious. And it was fun actually to listen to that as well. Just the communication that 100 Thieves have for each other when they're kind of playing. Yes, Nitro was playing. They're using old strats. They're saying, hey, let's try to run Vision Strikers or let's try to run Envy on Haven. But at the same time, when it came down to that whole scenario of Asuna dying and Dicey dying, and you have the Boomers having to clutch, the communication that went into that was beautiful to watch. Like, there was a couple of 2v4s that Hiko and Steel won. There was a clutch from Nitro in a 3v1. Like, just the way that these guys are communicating when they're retaking sites or replaying to try to win the round. That's probably one of the best things that I like from getting the comms out, if not the best thing. I understand that it's not always the right thing to do in all these tournaments as much as the main population wants, but it's because you can't give your strats away, right? But it was really fun to see that.
A lot of teams declined that, and I get it, especially those that are still sort of working on stuff. But
that's right.
I mean, the only thing better than that series for me was the trash talk that happened on Sunday. Actually, some of the best. Like it wasn't malicious. This is the best part. And I love
after the victory. By the way, this is
after. Oh my god!
Yeah, this is after everything was said and done. This is Sinatra. You know what, Mitch? I think you were most excited about this. Why don't you walk us through it?
Okay, well, this is just ripped off of what Steel said when he won first strike, by the way. So I think what Steel said was, shame a team playing since the beta couldn't close that out. So, Sinatra, obviously, they lost. They didn't win first strike. Obviously, that's tough for them. But I mean, and look at the replies. Like fans are legitimately angry.
Oh,
like,
man,
furious.
Yes. And Steel that is where he lives.
Oh yeah, he thrives on that shit.
Yeah.
But the best part for me was what happened after Steel. So 100 Thieves lose that game. Steel tweets a picture of him holding the first strike trophy.
And
the exchange after that was just incredible. Some of the best banner I've seen. I mean, this is this is back to front. Steel posts his picture first in the bottom right, and then Sinatra posts this. Jimmy's
me on the
Fallon of
Tonight
Overwatch
Show.
And then Nitro comes in, right? A lot of small boys up here. I like it. ESL 1 trophy, not light, by the way. I can
Is that tens back there?
confirm that. I don't.
No,
so.
it's not.
No.
It's not. No.
I was joking. Of course, it's not.
It's twist, yeah.
It's twist. Yes, I know.
And
Not all
yeah, so
jokes.
obviously that's the one that got
Sorry.
posted first. But what's incredible is the Sabrosa from the top rope.
It's just 9,000 somethings. Like we had to we had to get one of the production assistants to just pencil this in really quick. It was you were 9 million exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it was perfect.
That's
Big
what
fan
PL1
of
and
this.
Effie's, by the way.
Yeah, Effie's, yeah.
So
What a hair! And you know what? I don't have any real room to comment on other people's hair, but I think Effie's has got like, is that like the evolution of what Sideshow's hair would eventually have become?
Yes. Yeah. We say that, I don't know if how many of you guys are with Overwatch, but we say like his forehead looks like an Orisa shield, like that sort of half dome, and the back of his hair is populated, right? I think if he had grown it out, it would look pretty similar. Yeah, like he has like this hairline that looks like it's running for the hills.
It's reinforced. It's reinforcing itself at the back. It's just, it's like, hold on, we got to get more.
Moulton, like
I think Dapper had someone said in chat, Dapper also had like a tweet. It was a collection of just like really scuffed like people with cheesy checks and stuff like that. So, and you know what the best part of that was? Like the fans are just like losing their minds.
Yeah.
Like you can death taxes and fans just being papiges, but the
Yeah,
players
come on,
themselves
bro.
were like, this trash
They're
talk is just 10
laughing,
out of 10. Like Sabrosa is like, I love Valorant Twitter. And I'm sat here like, this is incredible. You know what I mean? I've been in a few different esports scenes in my time, and frankly, a lot of them are pretty safe because they fear this backlash from fans. And I've seen it. It's bad.
I tried to
Like,
get
some of
guys
these
in
people-
PUBG to do this forever, dude. I was
Yeah.
like, come on, like if like we're sitting like this shit talk each other. Who cares? Like,
It's-
come on, man.
Okay, I'm glad they don't take it seriously. Also, the Sentinels phase final, there was plenty of trash talk in the chat there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we can touch on that sort of very quickly. I just think
Yeah.
that like phase beating Gen G, like Gen G don't seem well conditioned to deal with teams that really want to push them and be aggressive. I think the Gen G like a team that wants to try and mid round and sort of, have very telegraphed executes, and phase don't really give them that opportunity. They get in their face, they challenge a lot of the time, and I think that Gen G didn't really appreciate that. They definitely struggled. Baby Bay had an incredible day. He looked incredibly good over multiple both series that they sort of played. Obviously, FaZe sort of stumble at the end, but we are starting to see FaZe clans. I mean, they're individuals. There's no doubt that guys like Corey and Baby Bay are incredibly good. But here's what doesn't make sense to me: these guys come from Overwatch, a game that is about using your abilities at the same time. And yet in Valorant, they forget they have them and just take angles and just peek
It's
constantly.
true. It's
Just
true.
try and go for these ego duels. So, and like Hayes was trying to figure this out on another podcast. He was sat there like, right, I think he was asking Pucky. He's like, right, do they have abilities in Overwatch? Because FaZe don't seem to use these. Puckett's like, yes. Hayes is like, how frequently do they have to use them? Puckett's like, every 3 seconds they're about. Hayes is like, I don't understand why they don't use them in Valorant. So I think that FaZe are incredibly individualistic as a team, you know, and I think that's why we get to see people like Corey and Baby Bay pop off. They're playing duelists. They're in their element, right? It's, and bear in mind, Raucus, obviously, we see him sometimes pick up. He's always on Sova. Sometimes, or actually, we saw him play a little bit of Omen here, but, these guys, Raucus is a support player, but he actually is a sniper player at the heart of it. So it was nice to see him get the operator a little bit there as well. But FaZe, they weren't definitely up to the task against Sentinels. They sort of fell down, and I think that has a lot to do with the macro approach to the game. You can see here that, they're definitely getting involved. A lot of frags are happening, right? Like Corey Zachary, these individuals, right, on split there, you can see they lose the game, but, they get involved. A lot of these sort of first kills, Corey's always, fronts up to the fight, but, seeing them use the utility to execute these set plays more effectively is absolutely on the docket for FaZe. And Shinobi tweeted like, "Oh, these FaZe guys looking pretty good, haha." So I think the road ahead is looking better for FaZe. Having a mind like Shinobi, people doubt his mechanics, but I don't think anyone has really doubted his mindset and approach to the game.
Correct.
Definitely looks like they need a cool head like him to sort of guide them in the strategic side of the game, because Overwatch players are constantly overstimulated. They're 360ing each other. I mean, Dapper, gave that back to Zachary at one point in a ridiculous 360 on this map. But yeah, there's work to be done for sure.
Day one is going to be like, all right, team, you have additional buttons outside of mouse 1 and W. Just a heads up, draw your attention to the C, Q, and E buttons. It's I think you're right though. Like there's a great video that Steel made a long time ago. I think the whole premise of the video was how players in Counter-Strike can improve very easily, which is stop taking aim duels all the time. Use your utility, all the things that he put that on YouTube for plebs to watch. So I don't really think that bringing that sort of insight into a professional team is necessary, but it does kind of feel that way, Van.
Yeah, and all that to say about FaZe, though, is that they're definitely night and day from being in the first qualifiers of First Strike, getting into First Strike to today. It's like a totally different team. And I do understand maybe they're taking so many aim duels for the possibility that because you have abilities, but they don't refresh like in Overwatch, and you only have like 1 or 2, depending on what agent you're using. Yeah, you're trying to save them at the right moment, and you never really find or know when that right moment is. So I think, just as Mitch said, now that you have Shinobi has a great mind to the game. Well, this is rumors pending, right? If he actually joins FaZe as a coach, if he's able to let them know, hey, look, this would be a great time to use this ability. Yeah, exactly. I think they're going to look amazing for 2021.
Yeah, it's also maybe FaZe need to sort of develop the ability to use those abilities proactively, because in Overwatch, everything is reactive, and set plays are actually few and far between, and they only occur on certain map types that are much more static and like push based, like Assault, for example, when you have to attack 2 points, right? Outside of that, teams just sort of go, what abilities do we have? Let's just fucking put them all together and make an alphabet soup that spells I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, it's like they're not pushing a cart. You know what I mean? It's not a CP map. Well, I guess it is kind of a CP map, but I mean, like it's the take and retake mentality, and saving abilities, like, and not having set uses for them. It's food on the table. But we need to see FaZe evolve. Shinobi's potentially the coach.
Definitely will.
TBD. We will find out. But we've got another guest. This time coming to us live from someone else's basement, I believe. We've got Velly live on satellite uplink. Oh no, he's back. He's back. He's back in a place.
What's up? I miss
Clearly,
you
you have a window now, which is good. I'm glad to see you're starting to see what the outside looks like.
Moving on up in the world. How you doing, Moses? I miss your beautiful voice. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it earlier. The fridge died. It was smelling funny. I had to do some stuff, but how y'all feeling? By the way, Uber, I love your accent, baby. You've been doing a great job so far.
Thank you, big fella. Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I worked on it. It's just
it's natural.
And Vans, I miss my rush hour brother, man. How you feeling today?
I'm doing good, man. Just had some camel tongue, and I like how you're representing everything that's not Valorant right now on your t-shirts and background.
I know, right?
Camel tongue, rush hour. You never tried camel
rush hour, man.
Exactly. Come on, Moses.
Some Mushu, man.
Yeah. No.
You never saw rush hour, Moses?
I don't like the term camel tongue. It just really doesn't. Listen, I don't like it. I don't know. Out of context, camel tongue is never good for me. So, Velly, I have some questions here for you that I'm sure I should probably ask, but I don't really want to ask any of them. Can you tell me what are you doing? Like, what have you been doing? You know what I mean? Like, you've been moving. Where are you?
So, I'm in the process of moving right now. But in the meantime, before I get my new place, which is in another state, I'm spending time with my mom and grandma. So it's like that's why I've been in a pink room that you saw before.
Do you carry the Rainbow Six Siege backdrop with you around, like you're selling things door to door in the 50s? Just like, it's like, where do I go to set this up today?
Rainbow Six is paying me to sabotage Valorant shows with this background play.
Yeah.
I don't want you guys to see my mess.
Like you just bring it down the street and you just sit there and you have a sign that says Rainbow Six is the best esport, changed my mind. And you just wait for college kids to come past.
There it goes.
You should, actually, behind that backdrop is a bunch of pissed off Starbucks customers who are trying to figure out when they can kick this guy out for using all the Wi-Fi. So.
Listen,
my macchiato. So Velly, obviously it's been an interesting year. We've been along for the ride together for most of it. So I mean, we've obviously been watching Valorant from the start, where we were talking about maybe Sentinels actually is good, all the way to, you know, this is the best team in the world. So looking back on 2020, what's your Valorant storyline? What is the one that you are most excited for?
Oh, the Valorant storyline, the one that I'm most excited for.
The one that started this year and is now, you know, where we're at now. I would like to hear like what has been your what have you been binge watching? What have you been not missing an episode each week?
I love TSM's story. I think anybody out there can appreciate everything TSM has done. I mean, like outside of the fancy play from Wardell and all, I mean, he's such a polarizing figure. But to me, the story that intrigues me the most is the fact that, okay, you have a Titan in a scene, then they started to drop at the first big event, Pop Flash, right? And I love to see that team's journey to see if they could rise back to the top. And we recently saw that with First Strike, right? Yeah, they didn't get first place, but they're still up there. They ended the event as, you know, a top 2 team. And that's beautiful to me because it's always easy to sit there and anybody can be an armchair analyst and be like, yeah, that team, they did well that last week, you know, whatever, they're going to continue doing good. But when a team falls off, people lose hope and they lose faith in them. But
and then immediately disband them after a single tournament loss. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, you know, I've seen that somewhere. But to see them just be like, you know, fuck that. We're sticking together. We're going to get better. We're going to change up the meta. And people, you know, they're not going to believe in this, but we're going to make them through, you know, our action and our play. That to me has been the most exciting storyline, hands down. I love it.
Obviously, you know, Valorant is not your first esports title, Velly, right? Obviously,
No.
You know, as we can see, you've been around the traps a little bit, and obviously spent a lot of time with Rainbow Six Siege. But obviously, we had the pleasure of seeing you, you know, during First Strike, and we've seen you obviously involved in this Valorant coverage, you know, prior to that. What is it about Valorant that I guess maybe made me take an interest in sort of being an analyst or a caster with that game? What was it that kind of piqued your interest?
You know, I actually came from Gears of War, and I find a lot of similarities between Gears of War and Valorant. And the reason why I say that is the simple fact. Oh, look at me and Vansilli. I missed that, by the way. That's
you know what? Seeing this shot, I'm so glad I didn't host this. Standing on a stage by myself with floating Velly and floating Vansilli, I would not have been able to contain myself.
That's the dream. No, but Valorant to me is a beautiful game because of the fact that when you get down to the nitty gritty in the big team fights, kind of like Gears of War, it's more of like, okay, you know, we have these tools, we have these scenarios, and like, it's hard to describe, but just a breakdown of it all is just beautiful. And, you know, even in a span of 3 seconds, there's so many mind-blowing plays that happen that just makes you sit there and it's like, wow, I need to rewatch that. I have no idea what I just watched. I get it kind of, but it was beautiful, it was fun, and it's flashy. I was never the one that brought into the Valorant hype. I always sat back and I was like, let people enjoy what they enjoy. But Valorant grabbed me, and I've just grown to love it. I know it's a very basic answer. I know it's not super in depth.
It's okay.
I just love how action packed it is, especially in those nitty gritty moments. It reminds me a lot of just the core basics of Gears of War, where it's like you can really show off how fucking dominant you are as an individual as well as a teammate. Like there's different types of play styles. You're not set in one box, and I think that's so important for games nowadays because you go to any game out there and it's like, oh, you know, you're set in one box. You have to play a certain style to be the best as this player. But Valorant, you know, comes along, and we saw 100 Thieves did. You know, take a look at Vision Strikers, the way they were playing, especially on the Icebox. It was beautiful. You will never see the same thing twice unless the teams are just simple-minded. So yeah.
And just to add on to that too, Velly, you're talking about you know, looking at everything you've covered, and to tie the loop with what Mitch was asking too, is like for coming into 2021. You know, I know we all have aspiring goals.
What are your plans? What are your plans?
No, I think we all have
your
plans.
Rights? You know, like where are we at? Ballpark.
I think we all have plans to like be part of the
any gigs booked that I need to know about? You know, do I?
Actually, I like where this is going. I like where this is going. No, go ahead, James.
Well, I could be off of what you're thinking at this point, but I think it's more for like anybody who's trying to get into the scene and aspiring casters, because when you're looking at the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 caster scenes, there's a huge talent pool out there, and they're looking up at you covering these events and stuff like that too. What advice can you give these people?
Yo,
Quit.
I actually shut up.
If you're thinking of coming from me, okay, let me tell you, it's not gonna happen.
This is a very
You know how many other casters we had to kill just to get on this show?
yo. Right? By the way, before I answer this question, I have to ask one. Uber, where are you? You're in Cali right now, right?
I am. Well, yes, Southern California.
You were drinking wine at noon. You were like my new favorite person.
That is
Mate,
Pilates are after this. He's got to be a little buzzed.
I have a Cabernet on my bedside table. No, this is just cold brew. But if I could be drinking wine, I would be, my guy. You better believe it. You better believe it.
Dripping is actually just grape juice.
I hail from South Australia, which is like a huge wine hub, and I used to work as a fine wine guy. So I love wine. If you ever want to chop up about wine, my guy, I'm down.
We could be best friends. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get it, dude.
No, I like this question a lot because to me it is very controversial. So yeah, you know what? I think the talent pool in Valorant is beautiful. Oh, it's so sexy, right? Because take a look at everybody here. Take a look at all the different scenes we come from. Take a look at everyone on
like
First
a sexy
Strike.
gradient.
Oh my
That's true.
God.
I mean, look at us. We come from esports. Moses comes from Facebook. We've just come from everywhere, right?
I'm
actually melting pot.
I'm just waiting for the show to end so I can pick my vault rewards. So
He did come from PUBG, so let's be easy on him.
I just tripped and fell. Like I was like, I guess I'll try some Valorant out. I mean,
No, I was actually talking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about making it in Valorant. Like how hard it looks like from the top. And I told him like, yo, like look at me. Yeah, I was on First Strike, but nothing is guaranteed for me ever because the simple fact, it's like, okay, even though people might have liked me in the chat, just like how you were upset because you got to compete with other people, other big names and stuff like that, like I have to compete with them too. I got to compete with the sideshows. I got to compete with the Mr. X's. I got to compete with the Vansillis. Like that stuff is
Uber. He's coming in soon.
Uber, right?
Yeah, dude.
Wait, Uber.
Recently single, by the way.
Analyst.
Oh, don't try to be a car. I ain't an analyst, bro. Only thing I'm analyzing is the bottom of this glass right
Okay,
now.
good.
Like where did all the wine go?
I have turned up. Yeah, look, listen. If I get play-by-play casting gigs in Valorant without undercutting people or just like having to do anything nefarious, I will do it for sure.
Pay attention
Yeah,
to
I
it.
will do it.
The one thing I will say, and I say it to everyone, even before I got into Valorant, right? Sip that cold brew, baby. The one thing I always tell people, it's more than just getting a gig and casting a tier 2 or tier 3 tournament. Anybody can do that. It's bullshit, right? If you really want to stand out, look at the broadcast. Look at the tier 1 broadcast. Look at First Strike. Take a look at Pulse. Take a look at JBL and everything all the top casters are doing, all the top talent are doing.
Oh, I thought we were doing comparisons onto which tournaments pay you.
Oh, yeah. By the way, Pulse, you suck. You suck with this pace.
Oh man.
But do something that's gonna make you stand out. Whether you inject a little bit of who you are in your work as an analyst or a commentator, or the best way, drop content. If you can show that you can talk about your video game on a YouTube video for 10 minutes to break down a strategy or a map or whatever, or you want to be chaotic like Sideshow and have like an hour-long stream doing that, man got a big brain, right? Do it.
For the love of the game,
it helps
dude.
you out. It helps you out. It helps the community out. And I'm gonna let you know now. Riot's watching. Riot is always watching. You know why? I did a tier 2 event and I did Valoranting, and I got noticed on that tier 2 event that I did with Vansilli because Riot was watching. It might not have been important to a lot of people because TSM and Sentinels were playing, but it was damn sure important to Riot. And they were watching that. They watched the YouTube videos, and guess what? They look at the Reddit. They look at your social media. Be out there. Casting is way more. And the newer people, please remember this. It is way more than just talking on the mic. And that's all I have to say about that.
I got something for you, Velly. Do you ever think that maybe they were just watching you?
Nah. There were big names there.
dude.
I mean, let's shut up.
No. I'm telling you, like Riot's showing up. You know, think about it. You know, I want to play my X-Files sound so bad, but anyway, but I just imagine, you know, like they keep showing up. You're like, yeah, no, like if you don't think that you can go down to the corner store and get groceries without running into someone from Riot, you're wrong. They're everywhere.
Riot's big brother. They're watching.
Yeah,
no, but
dude.
seriously, do whatever you can to stand out. Don't be a tryhard. Just have fun and be you, because like that's the future, man. And just like the producer said during First Strike, shout out to Arthur. He says the more talent, the better, because it makes this industry better for everybody. So that's why I'm speaking my truth to you guys. Stand out, be you, have fun, and do everything you can to put yourself in the forefront without undercutting and downing fellow talent. Those are very two important things everyone's gonna have to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to tack onto that as well, it's really important to obviously distinguishing yourself as a commentator is really important. My opinion is that you can do that from really refining the craft, because here's the thing. Yes, you want to stand out, but there are two rules that I abide by casting. First, it's not about you. The second rule is it's really fucking not about you. So if I see casters grandstanding, being self-indulgent, trying to promote themselves as an individual brand during a game, or they're solo casting because they want it to be all about them and they have an option to get a co-commentator, but they keep solo casting, you ain't going to get a second look from me. And this comes from, look, you can take this with a pinch of salt. I've been casting for 11 years now. You know, I came from literally the outback, the bushes, the
I wandered out of the wilderness,
the dusty trail, and I have worked. And since then, I've worked under the greatest casters of this era. You know, and I'm still working to count myself amongst their midst. So I see a lot of Valorant casters out there. I've offered feedback to a lot of them as well. The moment I see y'all trying to make it about you, you don't get a second look from me. You go on a shit list and you stay there, because that's what happens in the industry.
Well, that's scary.
You cross people, you undercut them, you get yourself on the shit list.
You're done.
Forget about it. Forget about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Go stream on Facebook.
Excuse me. Okay. I chose my platform based on the best fit for me. Okay. I decided that looking at many factors, and I had to make that decision. And I'm enjoying myself. Thank you very much. As I enter the second year on Facebook.
You look like you're blooming to me. You're blossoming, Moses. Don't anyone tell
blossoming, yeah, dude. Me and the 18 people watching me like grind out Plaguefall for my legendary memory. Anyway.
Yes. This is great, by the way.
Yeah, no, and you know what, man? Talent. Anytime you get talent in a room, it doesn't matter. It's like how much time is left on the clock before we start talking about rates and competing with other talent. So I love. You know what, man? It's been an absolute great ride. Just even working the events as a host. Like I'd never hosted anything before. Like I was a PUBG play-by-play commentator. So I was just like, I'm gonna jump on here, and this is, it's like the edge of the carpet. Like this is how I'm gonna get into the baseboard here. I'm gonna try and sneak in as a host. Yeah, man, it's been fun to watch. Even meeting the other people. Like obviously, Vansilli's been in esports for a long time somewhere
since Jesus was back when Jesus was in high school. Vansilli,
We were talking about the hotels we used to go to, that CPL was hosted at. We're making Uber feel old or young, I should say. Young. Yeah, but so 2020 has been a big ride of just kind of watching different storylines, and none greater than both talent, teams, individuals, as well as banter on Twitter and just the scene itself growing. And it's been exciting. And the one thing that you always get when you start a new esport is shitbags lurking in from other esports. Yeah. And I would like to draw some attention now to Pulse. Or that dude from Vancouver who tried to run a tournament. So these guys, at biggest Nuck fan, everyone tweet at him until he pays to play Valorant scene what they're owed. Scammer rat, I hope you're homeless by Christmas. Lex never is Lex is never one to mince words when it comes to what you should do. So he ran a tournament, for those who didn't know, the Pulse Invitational. I'm glad I dodged it now, actually. Ran a big week-long tournament for the Valorant scene, hired all kinds of talent, didn't pay the teams or anyone he employed, made empty promises for months before disappearing. So you know, being around in esports in 2002, Van, this is all familiar territory for you. But these days, this kind of shit, man, you know, and it really does underline the fact that all Canucks fans are losers.
Oh man, 100%. Honestly, man, like
we
it
lost
kind of
Velly.
sucks.
Did we lose
Yeah.
Velly?
Velly's the voice
gone.
of God. Velly's the voice of
You've
God.
been cut from the broadcast.
Hey,
There
he's
we go.
back. He's back. Honestly, it's like it's an event that Velly and I casted together, and even I was working behind the scenes to like get the talent, get the team together, and stuff like that too to help them out. And they look promising because they hosted one event before the Pulse Invitational, and they paid talent for that. They paid the teams for that. So I was like, okay, well these guys are legit. But when this story happened, and now unfortunately he's not answering my texts either.
Let's fly
like
down
you
there.
said, yeah, yeah. No, it
Homie
comes
leave you
back
on
to
red.
Get left on red.
Yeah, exactly. No, but because of that, it kind of gave me like a sour taste to be like, man, some things just don't change within the esports scene. And you know what? I have a feeling that there's a lot of organizations or tournaments that are out there that are taking advantage of this for the newcomers as well, that are trying to make a name for themselves too. And I feel that it's still like hidden somewhere within the scene and just like scrummy people in the scene, and it's unfair.
We'll fly out there and take him down to some of those really nice places I used to work at in downtown Vancouver. You know, where all the menus are in Chinese and you have no idea where that food came from.
Twitter? What
Yeah, he's a fucking
What a
coward, dude.
yo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Jeez, you know, no. You know what? I wouldn't be as mad because I saw the email threads. I wouldn't be as mad if he just came up and was like, you know what, Velly? We ran this event. I thought I could pay you, but you know, I ran through hard times. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try. It's not gonna come 2 to 3 months, but I'm gonna try to get you guys something. That is a different response than nothing and locking your Twitter account. Yeah, you should have the money before you run the event. But, you know, shit happens. And
It's
a
like a
lot of
lemonade
people use
stand.
COVID as an excuse. A lot of companies use COVID as an excuse. It's not an excuse. If you don't got the money, don't run it. And you know what?
It's actually.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. It's actually the opposite. I mean, COVID is not an excuse because here's the thing: as someone who's run events, you do run into overhead sometimes, putting like stage together, lights together. It's fucking online. Where are these? Like, if you don't have the money, like, if you're legitimate, right, and you just ran out of money, that means you're dealing with a lot of unexpected overhead costs.
Yep.
They don't exist online.
No.
They don't happen. You don't have like electricity bills or like you had to rent the stage, the space, use the internet connection, a convention center. Maybe you had to run late. Maybe you had to have a late unpacking, or you had to have extra people help you. Like none of that
Electrical
exists.
wasn't up to snuff. You had to
Save
bring
the
in
shit
some
ton of
money.
electrical. You know,
It's the opposite of an excuse. It's actually more of a condemnation that you couldn't pay during COVID, where theoretically your events are more compact. They're more streamlined because they have to be by definition.
It's like you have a lemonade stand and you're telling everyone like, hey, everyone come down and get some lemonade. We're having best lemonade ever. Everyone come and get it. It's gonna be this time, this place. And they're like, all right, we got everyone showed up. Like, all right, who has the lemons?
I can't find any sense.
Oh, did no one bring any lemons? Oh, for fuck's sakes! You know, it's like.
So I'm thinking, like, for events like this, like, were they given money by like Riot or other companies to run this event, like help or
The
anything?
opposite.
Oh, the
There are
opposite.
licensing fees to pay. I'm pretty certain that Riot will charge. I think it depends on the prize pool size.
Yeah.
But Riot expects tournament organizers, I believe, to pay a license fee. This is very standard, right? It's to
Right.
use their name, their game, their branding, right?
So did
Because
Riot get paid?
Theoretically, well, who knows? Maybe they didn't.
I think because it's a
Riot's coming
it
down
was
to
a
Vancouver.
$10,000 grand prize or prize pool that maybe they didn't want.
Might be under. Yep.
What a weenie,
Usually-
yo.
Because
Yeah,
the reason why these license fees exist like that is also to make sure they're legitimate. Because
Mhm.
Riot doesn't want any Tom, Dick, and Harry turning up, running a tournament, and then just like
Fucking
giving,
off.
because it gives them a bad name as well. So you better be sure that they are looking into it on their side, even if it was less than 10 grand.
That's why he locked his Twitter account, because the Riot
What a
spooks are
loser,
like
yo.
like knocking on his door at night and be like, "Hey, you like the Canucks? I heard." And just like walking down the hallway, all like looking over the shoulder and stuff like that. But you
Yeah.
know what?
Yeah.
Fuck that guy anyway.
Yeah, he was a nice dude, to be honest. Like I'm always
care.
trying to find like the nice things out of
He's a
everybody.
nice,
Nice
dude.
dude.
Nice.
He was
dude.
nice
Dude,
and like
Nice.
Van,
Dude.
don't start with me. Don't start with
communication
me.
was not paying is definitely like a dick move. But in terms
Yeah,
of trying
it's
to be
pretty
as
big dick
transparent as
move.
possible for the conversations, like he tried as much as he could. But I think once we finally started going all public and stuff like that, I think that's where he
Serial
started.
killers are really nice. You know, before they kill the
That's why I'm gonna
Yeah,
get killed
good old
first, man.
Ted
That's why I'm gonna
Bundy.
get killed
What a
first.
looker he
Ted
was.
Bundy,
Just-
he was a nice guy.
Now that
Ted
okay, hold on,
Bundy.
time out. We're now comparing esports non-payment to serial killers. And on that tangent, let's talk about this other tweet. Since Cloud9 is now down a player, they need to find a way to replace him. And what better way than to have another tournament just like we did 5 months ago? What if we hosted a Valorant tournament? Haha, just kidding. Unless, okay, we get it. You're having a fucking tournament. Nice job, social media guy. Rehashing the same strategies and tweets from 6 months ago.
Thank you,
Another
Mateus.
show
Very
match?
cool. Very cool, bro.
Another show match? Is that what this is?
Probably, or something.
Possibly,
Maybe. Well,
yeah.
Are we
oh, yeah,
bored of that yet?
No. Oh, what are you coming out in pucket like that? You don't like the
I'm
we have
playing.
coming in
I
pucket
did
like that,
enjoy-
bro?
I did enjoy the casters and talent they got in the replies and were like, "Hello, senpai. I heard you need some casters." Okay, guys. Yeah, I get it. Y'all on the grind. Y'all want to get some work, bro. Y'all be
Eyes
melting
emoji,
To be
everywhere.
fair,
emoji.
To be fair, they don't have the connects that we do. They don't know better. Okay, they don't know
Chris
better.
Puckett is in the comments. He's the number one guy doing this. Chris
I'm not
Puckett
sure-
doesn't have the connections. He's more connected than a power grid at fucking
Wait, was it
CERN.
Puckett? It was Puckett?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pucket. He's already got the
didn't know.
Vision Strikers thing
He's
going
more
on.
connected than the power grid at CERN, my guy.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
in
My
the
bad.
fucking. He is that dude in Cerebro from X-Men. Like the
Yeah.
face. He's everyone's thoughts,
Is,
my
there a,
guy.
gig,
He's
is
like,
there a gig nearby? I can sense it.
Puckett for hire, man.
That's
Jesus
it.
Christ.
I love it.
Dude,
so,
he-
yeah, I mean,
Pucket
obviously.
invented esports, by the way. Heads up.
Yep, I've heard that. In fairness, though, like obviously that's kind of cool. It's the end of the year. Like everyone
Didn't
sort
he
of thought
start
that.
MLG?
founded.
He was actually he was an exec level employee at MLG, so he was in there. He's got
Dude,
an MLG
I'm
tattoo
not
on his
joking.
arm, mate.
He's fucking.
He's
the
an
guy.
OG, yeah.
Yeah,
He's the
true,
guy,
G.
man.
True,
Yeah,
G.
Anyway, obviously I also replied to that thread with eyeballs, but there's a reason for that. So I mean, interesting to see. What is
Oh,
planned here
nice
for
leaks.
C9.
Nice leaks, dude. What possible meaning could we discern from this? I wonder.
But at least so I didn't have to do is like at least I'm not getting in the thread undoing the top button and just sort of shimmying up. Like,
Hey, you smell nice.
talk about video games, puppy.
You come here often, come here
Oh
often.
my god.
Yeah. Anyway, so but it's the end of the year, so I think we got the Pittsburgh night stuff this weekend, which will be interesting. There might. When's this C9 thing happening? Like, when is it actually going to be? Like,
Honestly-
I saw
GIF
that.
out of my face,
That's
dude.
Yes. Oh my god. Take
Jesus,
this
give it-
down. I saw this and scrolled so
Oh,
hard. So
God.
hard.
That voice, that's like if I saw that face anywhere other than on an esports broadcast, I'm calling the police.
I mean, but let this be a lesson to everybody. Chris Puckett got an incredibly storied career, prolific commentator,
Absolutely.
absolute professional,
Consummate.
still getting involved in stuff like this, right?
Amazing.
Still, and Velly talked about sort of being out there. Do it. Like, it's not shameful as much as we joke about it. You know what I mean? Like it's important to interact, and Cloud9 like that as well. Like from their perspective, it's like, yeah, we're being recognized by commentators, industry insiders. So obviously I joke about the sort of molasses, sickly sweet
course.
way of doing it, but this
Well,
is
you have a very it's there's a difference, and now here's the main difference: is if you're verified on Twitter, that's one thing. If you're not verified on
God.
Twitter, then it's desperate. So now that I've recently become verified on Twitter, I'm going to be adopting the
Wow.
strategy
okay.
to also eye emoji in every direction and to see where it goes. To see where it
This is
goes.
for hire.
Just,
You know what? I don't have a check mark yet, but also I realized that you don't have a monitor either, Moses. So I think it leads us all to the same
I have got
place.
monitors.
By the
out
way,
the ass. Okay,
if you're a
I've got
freelancer-
monitors everywhere. I've
if you're a
got so many
freelancer, put
fucking
in-
monitors, dude. You have no idea. You think that just because some tournament organizer nixed me on a fucking 4K monitor that I don't have more monitors, dude? I'm gonna go out just to spite this Tempo Storm, and I'm gonna go buy 2 more monitors because that's what Facebook allows me to do.
I will say, putting for hire in your Twitter name is not a bad idea because some people just don't know that you're a freelancer in for hire. So I mean,
Right.
people make jokes about it. it ain't dumb.
I'm gonna put
telling you
friend
right
of
now.
Chris Puckett in my name on Twitter.
No. I gotta say, because he's in the chat. I think the best marketing to be talent in Valorant, period, hands down, Simo. I was laughing last night with him about it. I said, who would ever think to get these clips of this big future esport, cast over it, and then just spam Twitter with it? I would have never thought that in a million years. And then he gets gigs. He does close qualifiers, everything. It's like, what? So it's just be out there, think different, think outside the box. What you checking your head for?
Velly,
all right, so
dude, I have, Mitch. I mean, I'm as the host, I have to take physical control of the show now before something terrible
What
happens.
happened?
You got in just in time. Yeah.
I
agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. Agree
Yeah.
to disagree. I like the initiative of any talent, and you know what? We're so far into the weeds now. It doesn't matter. So I will say this: it is important to maintain your. It is not victory at all costs. It's it is one of those things where if you want to get into something, and I guess I'll be transparent about it because I've worked with Simo. I've talked with Simo. It's not that you have to follow a certain process, and you definitely have to be competitive in how you approach things, but be competitive by building your unique take, not being the loudest wheel. And Asimo is a tremendously talented person, and I don't want to shine the spotlight on him because there's so many people that apply to this.
I get what you're saying.
Is that they look at Twitter and getting reactions and likes and responses from people that have already made it. To me, that is selling yourself short, because you have the talent to be able to go out there and practice, get solicited feedback. The Mitches and the Puckets of the world are so fucking accessible you wouldn't believe it. And as someone who was not in esports 2 years ago, to have shared a mic with guys like Mitch and Puckett and all the other greats that I've had the luck just to meet. The only thing that I took away from those things were not the connections and knowing them, but the information and the advice that they were able to provide. Because sometimes you see the end, and that's all you focus on, rather than the ladder you have to climb, or the journey you have to take, or the reps you have to do to allow your personality and your talent to become one thing, and then not just rely on just trying to get your foot in the door by like kicking it in. You know what I mean? Like there's opportunity out there, but being genuine and being honest and being cognizant of your actions beyond your own payday or your own gig, that is true success in the long term of esports. That's what I found in my short time, at least so far. Maybe Mitch has got some more sage advice in that.
Yeah, I think, look, for me, like, take this with a grain of salt, because this is coming from someone who is pretty garbage at marketing themselves on social media and sort of understanding how to, like, I don't, like, I'm kind of abrasive. I'm very Australian, and there's not a lot of subtlety and Machiavellian-ness about how I market myself in the industry.
Yeah.
I got to where I am by being better. I'm stronger, like, fundamentally. I worked really, really hard on the fundamentals of casting, understanding the craft, and ignoring the chase for cloud. I think that one thing that maybe can rub people, can rub some casters up the wrong way, is seeing people trying to fast track the process, right? To try and appeal to the lowest common denominator and appeal to people on social media instead of their peers. I think the best way to appeal to your peers is to be humble, honest, and work hard. That's how you earn the respect of, other established casters. I don't know if necessarily it really does. It does it for me if I see someone who wants to be a caster, but they're trying to fabricate I guess some sort of hype around them as a brand, just for, maybe some form of viral marketing that they were able to apply, instead of, seeing them really work on their strength. The best casters are not necessarily the ones that are that have the most memes. I have like 40K followers. Like, if you put it in perspective, that's actually like a fifth of the size of like a lot of my other peers at the same level. It could, and it has something to do with me being, I'm garbage at marketing myself in that way as well. But I've always had my head up my ass, focusing on the craft of casting, and it's not about me. It's not about getting my name out there. It's not about being a viral brand or anything like that. So that's just an opinion, and I think it differs a lot. But again, you earn my respect by respecting the craft, I think.
And it's not like a bunch of people who are already in positions of quote unquote power, because I mean, I can be transparent about this. Like I have always looked at the games that I cover as, this is my interest. I'm interested in this. I want to know all about it. I wanted to know all about PUBG.
Yeah.
And I started making content and making YouTube videos and streaming the game. And then I learned about the esports. And then I reached out to the people that were already in the PUBG esports fledgling area and said, like, hey, do you think that I could like come on as a guest? And they're like, fuck yeah, we've seen your videos. Come on. And then next thing you know, it turned into a career. So I mean, if you do it from the right place, rather than I want to be famous in esports, you
we can sniff that out a mile away, by the way.
Oh yeah, instantly. And it's and you can always tell the person who's in it for themselves. And that when it comes to, man, like just this conversation we're having now, you don't get this conversation without the experience. And you can't just bring someone else in who hasn't done the work and hasn't lost the gig or hasn't had the opportunity to succeed or fail. Because failure is not just not getting a gig, but it's I've done lots of gigs that were failures, in my opinion, because they just weren't good. And if you're not trying to push the product or push whatever or make something new or interesting, then it's not worth the clicks, because really Twitter followers are fucking meaningless anyway.
I mean, you can buy them as well, but like people forget also that I cast World of Tanks for 3 years. I was in the literal gulag of casting.
Oh yeah,
World of Tanks,
sure.
yes,
World of Tanks, homie. I mean, there's so many, and I mean, Vansilli,
Hey, he did it with Pansy,
by the way.
Vansilli spent a decade on the fucking shelf, dog. It's not like it's one of those things where for the love of the game, not for the love of the followers. You know what I'm saying? So
that shit means nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, just to be devil's advocate too, though, I feel that maybe sometimes when we're looking at the platforms that we currently have, where it has the most traction, the most interactions to try to get our name out, if our route right now is not to currently make those videos and those clicks, and we don't maybe not have the time or something like that to make the content, right, for the YouTube clicks or whatnot, I think the most engaging way that some of the people have is through where it's popular, like Twitter. So I think just to try to get your name out or your brand out that way is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a great way to get your name out there too. But I've always been very adamant as to, like, when you interact and things like that too, you have to be humble in the process of you doing these things. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that you're trying to get your name out through this platform.
Well, let me ask you this. Hold on, sorry to break you up, Velly. I know you're on the shelf there. Or I'll get you up right now. But Van, I want to ask you this. When you're casting, are you concerned about being the smartest person in the room, or are you concerned with having the best possible broadcast?
Best possible broadcast, definitely.
Right. So I mean, if you have that mindset, you will succeed. And even sometimes it can take a long time to circle back. But I don't want to step on Velly long. What do you got for me?
No, you're fine. I'm gonna say that either way. Like you, Uber, Vansilli, and I, we can talk about how we came in and say, yeah, that's how you come in. I was a content creator. I had a podcast, a talk show, and I got brought in as a host. But it's not always that easy. It is not that easy, especially nowadays. Like now the talent is so defined in so many different genres. It's difficult. Like honestly, how could Joe Schmo, compete with Uber and Vansilli? Like that's difficult. So I think the genius of him saying, you know what, I'm gonna get people's attention. They're gonna be looking at these tweets. Simo, the Valorant caster, let's put it on Twitter. I'm gonna get attention. And you know what? At the end of the day, it did work. I will agree that being, like super loud and proud, I wouldn't have done that, but it worked for him, and I'm happy for that. And other people out there, it's just different avenues. Like, to be honest, most of us got here just through dumb luck. So do we all really know the real way to get to where we are?
You might feel lucky, Velly, but hey, how many times have you moved that fucking banner? How many times you moved that banner around? Where you living at? You know what I'm saying? Like where are you moving to? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're moving your ass all over the fucking country. You're in it. Like you're doing things that most people would say, no, I'm good. I want to stay in the hometown. Do you know
how lucky I got to get to where I am? Do you know how lucky I got?
It's a fallacy.
Twice?
Dude. You can be lucky, but you have to be talented and dedicated at the same time. Luck.
So I will say this, like, we're definitely past, I think, using anyone as an example for sort of what to or
we're not crapping on
to do,
Simo, by the way. This is an overall example chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, like, it does differ for everybody. what I will say, and this is probably the last thing I'll say on this topic, is that it is not harder now than it was then to become a commentator. There has never been more resources
I thought it was going to be.
available to people who want to learn the craft.
True.
Back in the day, I was radio casting off of a Winamp extension
Yeah.
on my own
Shellcast.
I did
Yeah.
217 radio broadcasts in my first year of commentating as a
Yes.
hobby. Okay. There are so many tournaments and opportunities now for people to get themselves out there. When back in the day, YouTube wasn't even really a thing. Oh, like, what are you going to do? Market yourself on MySpace? Tom doesn't give a shit about your esports casting, mate. You know, like, I don't like the rhetoric from commentators who say it's harder now is nonsense. You don't get to say that because you guys weren't casting back then necessarily, right? Like, it was impossible. And you're right, Velly. You're lucky. So am I.
Yeah.
And without luck, I probably just wouldn't have got anywhere. I wouldn't have been plucked out of obscurity. So I always acknowledge just how lucky I am. But I just don't want commentators to be sort of, you know, to project their inability to secure gigs on it being too hard or there being too much competition, because there's never been
like
a better,
that.
I
better
have a
like
time.
that.
confession. I have a confession to
No.
make here. Okay, when Overwatch League was announced and the first season, was nowhere near. I was nowhere near esports. I was watching people like Uber and saying to myself, "There's no fucking way." Like, first of all, I was jealous because I always I was doing showcasting and stuff as well when I was a teenager, doing prank calls on IRC, like, you know, GamesNet back in the day. You know, I was always
great.
interested in that stuff. But I looked at esports as this unassailable thing, but I tripped and fell into it by accident. So it's not like it's luck, but it's also, there's not like, don't put walls up in front of yourself by thinking that that something is unattainable. When there is, it's like, I want to be a CEO.
No.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to start by pouring coffee first. You know what I mean? It's not going to be. You got to learn the industry from the ground up, because it's perilous. First of all, because you can fucking fall in a hole if you're not careful. But you know what? I think
I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
I completely agree with what you just said. 1
Yeah.
million %.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, this can go really deep, and I feel like we're gonna get there.
Yeah, we
so-
digressed
Yeah.
big time.
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, it's we'll
That's a good discussion.
we'll have to pitch the easy. Well, it's entertaining for the for us, for at least. So I'm excited to and it's always fun talking about this stuff with other talent in esports, but we've definitely got off topic. I have one more announcement.
Sorry.
And the announcement is that the show is over. But also that this is my last show. So I have had an absolutely What do you mean? Let me fucking explain why. Okay. So so as far as the journey has been concerned, Valoranting has been absolutely incredible. And I have recently become addicted to World of Warcraft. And looking at my schedule, I really just can't find the extra time, 2 to 3 hours every other week to talk about Valorant. So, I mean, what else am I going to be doing? I have to raid. No, honestly, guys, as far as the show has gone, I think that the CMOs of the world and everything, getting to know everyone has been absolutely extremely awesome. Just looking at everyone coming into the scene, using this show as a platform to talk about where Valorant was going, even when it was brand new. But everything has to come to an end, and I have other projects that I have to focus on, and I think it's time for me to step aside and bring someone new into Valoranting so they can take the helm. I want to be the guy that came before Jon Stewart, whatever the fuck his name was, if you know what I mean. So so I wanted to put that out there. I don't want to. It's not sad at all. Working with Jason and working with Scott at Do Not Peak has been amazing. I really don't think that door is shut. And I think that there's lots more to come. But for Valoranting, that's it for me. So I just want to say thank you guys, Vansilli, Velly, and Uber, for always being around and for being my trusty co-host when for so many weeks Pansy just no-showed. So last on that happy note, Uber, thank you so much for joining us. Vansilli, thank you as well. Velly, we will see you down the road, my friend. I'm sure we'll trip
Wait.
over.
That
Hold on, hold
sucks.
on.
You can't
Hold on,
just
hold on,
break
hold
it
on.
like
Yeah.
that and like.
And then just fucking close the show, because I still wanted to say, like, it's a sad you say it's not a sad moment, but I think it's a fucking sad moment, man. I think you've been a staple to the show. I think you're an amazing personality, a fucking great host. I love your personality and sense of humor and what you bring as well for the Ignition series when you're able to host those two. And it's gonna be a tough loss actually for the community to see you go.
Well,
man.
and
So,
there's some chatter here, and just to be clear, the Valoranting is continuing. It's I'm
Yes,
not
yes,
taking the
yes.
show with me, dude. So it's there's a new host to be found, and we're taking a little break for Christmas though. You could Valoranting will be back after the Christmas break. And tell you what, let's take this discussion to the backstage. We all crack a couple of beers. So let's let these people get out of here, enjoy the rest of their day. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure, and until next time, we'll see you out there.
see you guys.